Excuse me. Excuse me. May I have your attention, please? If you are parked by the ambulance doors or the fire truck doors, you're going to need to move your cars right now, please. Thank you.
Test. Test 1, 2, 3. You got Mike? All right.
Oh, there it is. Yep. Mine is.
Test, test.
Can you hear me?
Turn your microphone on.
Okay.
Oh, okay. This is me.
Test, test.
Is he coming? Are we gonna have a quorum? The 4. We do. Okay. Pardon me. Hi.
Marianne?
Should I get?
Hey, Marianne?
And then talking.
Marianne, we already have your letter.
Yeah.
We're going to read it in. You don't need to get out.
Thanks.
These guys here. I would think that they would need them in advance, but I'm not sure. We had talked about it. Yes, Bob.
She is. She's in a
Hi.
different work.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, that
Hi,
explains it.
Marianne.
You know
I
who she is,
think,
right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She just doesn't want us to ruin the sale. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, letter 44, that one's been entered already to be read. Yep.
Barbara, take a letter and put it someplace.
Take a letter and something.
You don't need to read it. We're going to read it.
Oh, yeah. I know. I'll dump it later. Thank you. You didn't have anything better to do tonight, right? Darn. I'm sure you did. Your boat must be in storage or still or something. Hi there. Thank you. Got it. Hey, Jason.
Hi, Barbara.
Delivery, huh? Oh, I know, that's fine. I figured it out.
Well, Sarah and I are gonna share. It's 40.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you very much. Great.
I don't think it's going to be a short meeting. They're outstanding. They're outstanding. People said it was a short meeting.
What's that?
Oh, good.
Side conversation. Well, we won't talk about how you're dressed, okay? Never mind. A little bit after 7.
How you doing, Barbara?
Good. How are you? Is your name on that?
It's right there, actually. Yes.
Okay.
Can I steal this then?
Well, this is, I think, is Sarah sitting over there? Okay.
Sarah. Yeah. They give you a whole table.
Excuse me again. Excuse me.
Well, maybe I'll do that.
We still have 7 cars parked in front of the fire department. Would you please leave and move the cars? I can't start the meeting until you do. So if you'd leave and move your cars, please, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Geez, I've never seen.
I know, as we said it.
So I came here. There's nothing here. They said go to the fire department. I was just about to park, and they said don't park here. Yeah.
I don't know where it's parked.
Along the road. Yeah, I've never seen that before. So. Wow. Wow.
My wife had to start arguing. Oh, no. No. It'll be in there in this what? I spent maybe 10 minutes putting this. Is there a problem?
Was this expected?
I don't think it was this big, but it kind of, yeah.
I've been doing this for a few years. I've never seen anything remotely like this. I don't know. I just waved.
Oh.
We're good.
Okay.
Oh,
Hi. Good. How many papers do you have? 20? Oh, so 5 minutes apiece wouldn't be too bad then with 20.
how much?
5 minutes.
Are we going to read all of these letters?
The only thing would be if the community suggests that we don't read them aloud.
We've never done that, but I know the board does that when they get lots of them.
I'm gonna ask me so that they
You know,
can comment about
because,
it.
you know,
maybe.
because, you know, and I've read them. I mean, we all get them in email.
It's only 11. It's only 11. No. Everybody wants to practice their public speaking and everything and send their letters if they want to come here and talk to us.
Well, apparently a lot of people have thoughts on this. Huh?
Good evening. Could I have your attention, please? The Torch Township Planning Commission meeting on July 13th, 2021 at 7:05 is now open. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start, I'd like to introduce our planning commissioners and the other people sitting at the head table. To my right is Jerry Kolka, Vice Chair. To my left is Barbara Boudros, Acting Secretary. Jason Merchant, Trustee and Board Representative. Bob Hawkins, Commissioner. Cole Schumacher, ZBA Representative and Commissioner. Sarah Capriva, Planning Consultant and Zoning Administrator. Veronica Bittner, Recording Secretary. Virginia Hawkins, Deputy Clerk. And by the way, we're going to give her a workout tonight. Yes, we sir.
2 more cars are gonna be moved.
Okay.
An Acura green and that one's
Thank you.
a red Escalade.
Okay, we're having some stubborn people in the room, so bear with me. We have an Acura that's green, license number
EJ
CJ60899, and a red
Escalade.
Escalade BWJ 721. Would you please move your cars? Thank you. Thank you very much. The next thing on our agenda is a consideration of the agenda. I'm requesting an agenda change. We received a letter from Mr. Robert Spencer pointing out that he feels that we're not in compliance with the Open Meeting Act. I would like the commissioners to consider adding this to the agenda. May I have a motion, please, to do that? Barbara, you want to put a
Yeah,
motion?
I make a motion that we add Mr. Spencer's letter to the agenda.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Discussion? May I call for a vote for? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Spencer's letter will be read right now, please. Okay? You want to read Mr. Spencer's letter, please?
Sure. To members of the Torch Lake Township Planning Commission, Torch Lake Township's zoning administrators, Torch Lake Township supervisor. Oh, thank you. I'm just going along here. Okay, members of the Torch Lake Township Planning Commission, Torch Lake Township zoning administrators, and Torch Lake Township Supervisor from Robert Spencer regarding noticing of the Torch Lake Township Planning Commission's Tuesday, July 13th public hearing. Dear Chairman Stridiron, TLT Planning Commissioners, and TLT zoning officials and supervisor, I am aware that Torch Lake Township's Planning Commission has scheduled a public hearing tonight as part of its regular Tuesday, July 13th, 2021 meeting. The hearing's purpose is to receive public commentary regarding several rezoning permit applications submitted by property owner Timothy Bays on behalf of the Torchport Air Park LLC. As such, the conduct of this public hearing is subject to the provisions of the Michigan's Open Meetings Act, OMA. With respect to notifying members of the public of this hearing, the OMA requires that a meeting of a public body shall not be held unless public notice is given as provided in this section by a person designated by the public body. According to Torch Lake Township's meeting notice policy, the township zoning administrator has been designated that noticing responsibility. Regarding tonight's public hearing notice, it is my understanding that it was to have been published in a newspaper of general circulation at least 15 business days in advance of the date of the meeting. 15 business days in advance of Tuesday, July 13th, 2021, would have been the date of Monday, June 21st, 2021. As influenced by non-business days upon which members of the public would not have access to hearing-related documents because Torch Lake Township's office was not open for business. The upshot of this is that, in my opinion, tonight's public hearing was not properly noticed and therefore shall not be held. I also believe that the concept of substantial compliance does not apply in these particular circumstances. Rather, it imposes liability on a public officials who intentionally, knowingly acts in ways that violate the OMA's legislatively established parameters relating to how they shall or shall not act regarding carrying out their duties. In conclusion, it is my suggestion to Torch Lake Township's Planning Commission Chairman and Planning Commission members that tonight's improperly noticed public hearing, in my opinion, be canceled and rescheduled. A properly noticed public hearing regarding these matters could subsequently be scheduled by the Planning Commission at some point in the future. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Virginia. At this time, I'd like to ask our township attorney, Todd Millard, to respond to that letter. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was provided with a copy of Mr. Spencer's email earlier. I did look into the situation. It's not the Open Meetings Act that controls the public hearing in this case. It's actually the Zoning Enabling Act that provides with 15 days notice. And in section 103 of the Zoning Enabling Act, it simply states that notice must be published in a newspaper at least 15 days prior to the date of the hearing. There is no business day, weekend limitation. It is just simply 15 days. And so I believe Mr. Spencer is wrong in his counting and declaration that this has not been noticed properly and that notice has not been published in the newspaper correctly. It's my understanding that notice was published in the newspaper on the 24th. 15 days prior today is actually the 28th of June, and so that would make this timely notice and publication. So I think the board is free to proceed with the meeting tonight, and you have not violated the notice provision.
Okay. Thank you for your opinion, Counselor. With that noted, we're going to continue with our meeting. Next on the agenda is a summary of procedures and rules.
Bill, I hate to interrupt. There was a motion to add that to the agenda, but we never had a motion to actually approve the agenda.
Thank you, Sarah. She keeps me straight and narrow. Okay. May I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda?
I will move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Cole. May I have a second, please?
Second it.
May we have discussion? No discussion? I'd like to have a vote, please. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Now we're going to get into summation of rules and procedures. This is going to take a little while, so please pay attention because it really does apply to our meeting. We want everybody to have a chance to speak tonight if they want to. And I'm going to get into all the details on how we're going to follow that. So please stay with me. Good evening. Thank you for coming tonight for this important meeting for the future of our community. I'd like to lay out what is going to take place tonight. Soon I will be opening a public hearing. We will first hear from the applicant. Following that, we will read aloud all the letters received into our minutes. Then the public hearing will be open to the public to hear your thoughts on this proposal. The commissioners will then ask questions and request additional information from either the applicant or the audience. If you wish to address the Planning Commission, please fill out the citizen comment card located on the back table and give them to the Acting Secretary, Barbara Boudros. We will call you to speak from this forum. When you come up, that's the microphone you're going to speak from, please. I will give you a moment for any last-minute forms to be submitted to the Acting Secretary, Barbara Boudros. Does anybody have any more forms?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's Tom. Okay. You got another one? Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You see one more coming? Okay. Yep.
Thank you, ma'am.
Do we have anybody else that's still writing? Raise your hand if you are. Okay, we have one in the back. Okay, we'll wait.
I got 20 now.
It's grown quite a bit.
That doubled. All right,
Not a
thank
problem. Do we have anybody else still writing their comments? Raise your hand if you are, please. Okay, I think we have them all. Once the public hearing is closed, we will hear from the planning consultant, Steve Langworthy, who will present an overview of the proposal and describe the options available to the commissioners regarding this application. We will not be taking any votes here tonight. The commissioners have the time, opportunity to further study the application and consider your comments. Because of the nature of this application, the Planning Commission will take as long as necessary to fully examine this proposal. Be sure to check the Township website for future meetings and documents. Before I open the public hearing, I'd like to establish some ground rules. First, the application is for rezoning from residential/ag, one property, to commercial. Therefore, no site plans will be considered as part of this proposal, regardless of what the applicant may show. Rather, the township must consider only the rezoning and all of the possible uses for which the property may be used under commercial zoning. No specific uses will be considered. Once I open the floor for comments, please be aware of some of the rules that I'm going to ask you to follow. This is an opportunity for the Planning Commission to receive input from the public. We will not be answering any questions from the public at this time. Our job is to listen and take notes. Should you have any written comments that you would like to include in the file, please provide a copy to the Acting Secretary, Barbara Boudros. I would ask that you keep your comments relevant to the rezoning from residential to commercial, rather than any specific use or activity. As noted earlier, no specific use, site plan, or development activities will be considered by the commission with this application. Please be brief, as we would like everyone who wishes to speak to be afforded the opportunity. If You submitted a letter to the Planning Commission, and it is read into the minutes tonight. Please do not read your letter again during the public commentary portion of the meeting. If you wish to express additional thoughts apart from your letter, please do so during the public commentary portion of the meeting. Should individual comments go too long, we may have to begin imposing time limits on speakers. To that end, it is helpful that you do not repeat comments from others. Each speaker will be given one opportunity to speak. If the hour is not too late, we may consider another opportunity for you to speak. That is my decision. If you are speaking on behalf of a group, please indicate so and identify that group and its members attending tonight. Individual members of the group will be represented by the speaker and will not be able to speak independently. If anyone wishes to speak, direct your comments to the chair, not to individual commissioners, audience, or the applicant. This is not up for debate. In an effort to allow everyone the opportunity to speak and to keep the meeting moving, please do not cheer, comment, or clap for the speakers. Finally, I know all of you will keep your comments civil and only related to this application. And we thank you in advance for respecting each other as well as the applicant. The public hearing is now open. What's the time, Barbara?
I've got 7:23.
At 7:23 p.m. The public hearing is now open at 7:24 to review the request for change for the zoning PCA 2021-2 and PCA 2021-34 for the Torch Air Park LLC. Rezoning request 2021-2, PCA 2021-34 for the Torchport Airport. I'd like to repeat that again, I missed one. Rezoning request PCA 2021-02 and PCA 2021-34 for the Torchport Airport LLC. And with that, I would like the applicant to address the PC. Tim, if you come up to the microphone, please.
All right, thank you for giving me the platform to tell a little bit of my story and what's going on and why I'm here tonight. Again, my name is Tim Bays, and let me start by saying I wrote a lot of this down. Can you guys hear me close? Oh man, I gotta snuggle up to this bad boy, don't I? All right, so again, I wrote a lot of it down because I know there's a lot of stuff going on out there, and I could go in a million different directions, and I really want to stay focused on what's at hand tonight. So I put this down. I did make copies. I'm going to leave copies here, and I've got extras if anybody wants them. They're my actual notes as well as the exhibits that I'm going to talk about tonight. So again, you don't need to take notes. I'll give them to you. I've got nothing to hide. So again, let me start. Me and my wife, Tracy, are full-time residents, 1890 Moulton Road. We've been Antrim County residents since 2008. 2018, we moved over to our current and permanent location here in Torch Lake Township. Let me start by saying, and I want to make sure everybody understands this, the reason that we are up here, I left my businesses downstate. The reason we are up here is because we love northern Michigan. I love the lakes. I love the sights, the sounds, the smells. The same reason that everybody else is up here, that's why I'm up here. I'm not doing anything to jeopardize that because I can walk from my house to this airport. I'm not looking to create some sort of commercial monstrosity. I'm just trying to do what's right. So let me start by saying the commercial rezoning of the lots in question started, and a big part of the reason that I'm here tonight on several of the larger lots, it started because of the pushback I received after purchasing the airport by the former zoning admin, Deb Graber, and the former township supervisor, Alan Martell. I received an email from Alan dated October 14, 2020, which is in the exhibit, Exhibit A, in which I was told specifically that only permitted use in R1 residential is single-family homes with accessory buildings and uses. Any use that involves planes, parachutes, paraplanes, landing or takeoff zones, etc., is not permitted use within R1 residential. The email continued with, if it is your intention to put R1 zone parcels to any other use than single-family residential homes, then you must either obtain special land permit or get the property rezoned to a different zoning classification. That's one main reason that I'm here. In that letter, I was told, and it will continue, and I have it in here for everybody to see, the township will have, if I don't do one of the two, the township will have no choice but to take necessary steps to enforce the ordinance and your compliance. Okay? It's a big part of it. There's a secondary reason too. So let me, again, I've got the amendments in here. There's a piece I'm not going to get into because there's a lot of noise that's being created out there, so I'm not even going to talk about it. The two largest pieces that make up almost 100 acres, parcel ID 3251 or 01700 and 325-02100 are and have been used for aviation purpose for what I can find some 80 years. I don't know the real number. I heard 1940s when it got started, somewhere around there. Okay, they've been being used for aviation for that long before there was zoning in this community. Parcel 325-01700 is a 62.29 acre piece that has nearly 1,000 foot of the east-west runway, the one that goes down Bay Colony, running right through it. It also has the run-up or the displaced threshold of runway 4 at the southernmost end of it. So in essence, the letter that I received from the township said, if I don't have that parcel, that 62 acres rezoned, we can no longer land, take off, taxi, or use it for aviation purposes. That's a problem. Now, again, I think I would win because this thing has been going on. The airport's been there for 80 years. I think I would win if I had to tussle with the township in court, because I honestly think it's grandfathered in and it's a legally non-conforming use. But instead of going through that battle, I figured I'll just comply. I'll pay the money, I'll do what I need to do, and we'll make the application and get it rezoned commercial. Now, within that 62 acre parcel, if you know anything about it, it's going to be surrounded by runways. The center section, because it's all one parcel, I can't do anything about it. The center section of it is mostly wetlands. There's nothing, you're not going to be able to cross the runway to build anything additional in there, and it's wetlands. So there's nothing that's going to be done with it except for making sure that the integrity or the longevity of this airport is intact, because, again, my hand was forced. Okay? And I highlighted the sections. I have the maps showing where the commercial ends on the runway and where the residential begins, and you'll be able to see that. So it's very important that this thing is done. Parcel 025-02100 is a 17.18 acre parcel that has the published taxiway. And I've got the chart from Michigan Aeronautical in here that shows there's a taxiway. It used to be the old north-south runway, 1836. It was converted to a taxiway. It's published. It's been published. I've got the aeronautical I can't even think of what it is right now. The aeronautical chart from 1983 or 86 that shows it in there. It's been there for a long time. That taxiway is in there. It runs right through the middle of that residential parcel. Same thing with that piece. Now we're at 80-some acres that I'm trying to get rezoned. That has to be rezoned, or else the township has to back down on their threats. Okay? And again, I don't know if it's a threat, but to me, I took it pretty serious, and we're doing something about it. I want to do what's right. Okay? So again, with that, based on the township's new stance that aviation and residential cannot mix, these two parcels must be rezoned back to commercial per the township's own request. And I say back to commercial because the entire property was once commercial in '99. The previous owners petitioned to have it made into residential so they could create this air park. They developed an air park where there's commercial and potential for 32 residential home sites, okay? That's where I'm going next. And so in regards to the 30 residential lots that I've made application to turn back to commercial, there's two reasons why I'm doing this. The first one is it's the exact same reason I just said on the other two lots. The commercial or the residential lots are between two commercial. There's taxiways that go from the commercial hangars through the residential out to the runways. Okay, if you know anything about it, there's taxiways. They're basically saying the same thing. We can no longer taxi through. It can no longer be used for the same purpose that it's been used for forever unless it's rezoned. That's the first purpose. The second purpose on those 30 lots is, if you've been around here for any length of time, it's a 22-year failed residential condo association. In 22 years of trying to sell these lots, only 5 were ever sold. If it wasn't for the previous owners trying to jumpstart the development and building a spec house, not one house would have ever been built out of 32 residential lots. The track record speaks for itself. It's a failed development, and there's no chance of it ever surviving. Ever. It's just not going to work. And again, you got to understand, like most people that come to northern Michigan, they don't come up here to sit in on a runway. They come up here maybe to get onto the runway to then go to the water, right? Most people that fly into the airport have a house on one of the two lakes, right? Over on the bay or over on Torch Lake. That's what happened. That's why it wasn't going to happen. So my goal is to do very minimal. With how it's currently set up, it's set up to have up to 46 airplanes housed on the airport. My proposal is going to have maybe 15, far less than what could have ever been done there. And again, I could come and start pushing for the residential and go that route. I don't want to do that. Again, you guys got to understand, to me, this airport is an extension of my backyard. I walk there. I take my granddaughter, I got a 3-year-old granddaughter. If you ever see us in a Ranger, she loves it. We pass the airport, she goes, there's my Northport, right? She loves getting on the Ranger and going on trying to find deer or look for turkey feathers. We hunt on that property. A lot of people, maybe a lot of you guys are going to be gone. I'm going to be sitting there this fall hunting. We're here permanently. This 239 acres that I bought is more than just an airport to me. It's literally, I have the lake and I have that as my backyard. So it's very important to me. So again, kind of going back to that, it's a failed development. So there are pilots in our community that don't fly into Torchport. It's unsafe, or they don't feel safe. Some of the pilots that fly in there say, it's safe enough, I've been doing it for years. Well, you might have a bigger comfort zone than some of the other ones. A lot of them don't fly in. So if we could fix runway 927, which jars my teeth just mowing the lawn, right? Imagine landing on a thing. If we can fix that, create an avenue that we can put a few more hangars, right? There's some lots that are going to be available that we can build some in the current commercial. I just want to build a few more commercial hangars, including one for myself, because I'm here permanently now and I fly, and then leave literally 99% of this 239 acres untouched, undeveloped, because I want to hunt there this fall, right? Seriously, I have zero plans to do anything that a lot of people are worried about on this property. I hear a lot of the rumors, and I understand. I absolutely don't need to get into details of what my plans are, but what everybody, I think, has to understand, what I'm applying to get rezoned commercial, literally, it really doesn't mean very much to the community, because you got to understand, I have, I think, 70 or so acres on Nichols Road, all down 31 and down Bay Colony. It's already zoned commercial. If I wanted to put a gas station, a motel, a convenience store, retail, shopping, I could without any fight whatsoever, because it's allowed by right. It's already there. I could change it and just do it. It's already commercial. I'm not. I'm trying to preserve the integrity of this airport. Actually, I took a big step before I bought it and made sure that the runways were part of the association. It was part of the request. I wanted that part of the association so one person couldn't come in and change it all up and destroy the beauty that we have there, right? That meaningful part of this community. That airport has been there for so long. So now As I continue to develop it, my goal is to take it from 46 lots down to 20, maybe, right? Including the commercial that are already there, and eventually turn the airport itself over to a small group of pilots that will prevent this airport from ever being broken up or running the chance of somebody buying it singly and saying, you know what, I don't want an airport there anymore. I want to develop it. A small group of people, like I can get hit by a bus when I leave here and someone say, well, what if somebody then buys it and then they go off and they want to put condos or hotels there? Right now they can. Thank God I bought it, not a developer, because I'm a pilot and I want that property left untouched. But it could happen. So if I turn it over to a small group of pilots that have a vested interest, it will never be converted. And that is the protection that I'm trying to put into this community. And for some reason, it's getting twisted on me. You know what? I don't even know if, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
We are now going to read the letters that we've received, and there's a lot of them. Because the task is so monumental, we're going to have two people read the letters back and forth, so one person doesn't get completely exhausted, which could happen. Okay, with that, Virginia, would you read the first letter, please?
Sure. Letter number 1 from Nancy Squires. Dear Mr. Stridiron and Mr. Kolka, I write to express concerns with the Torchport Air Park rezoning proposal submitted by Mr. Timothy Bays and scheduled for public hearing on July 13th. Unfortunately, I am not available to attend the hearing in person. First, I want to mention that I am not a resident of Torch Lake Township, but of neighboring Milton Township. However, from what I can see from the documents Mr. Bays has submitted, I believe his proposed plans are likely to affect property owners beyond Torch Lake Township. The proposal seeks to rezone substantial pieces of residential property to commercial for purposes of using it as aircraft runways and hangars. Nowhere does the proposal describe what types of aircraft will be using the new facilities, how many, and how Mr. Bays will mitigate any noise or safety concerns. I don't believe this proposal can be carried forward without addressing these issues. In my location along the bay in Milton Township, we have seen an uptick in small plane traffic in recent years. The noise generated can be a definite nuisance for property owners up and down the flight paths. I think this proposal has the potential to add to that burden, and I suggest the Planning Commission proceed with extreme caution where the peace, tranquility, and again, safety of the township and its neighbors could be damaged.
Sarah?
This is from Marcy Jones. Please enter this into the record at the July 13th Torch Lake Township Planning Commission meeting and related meetings.
Excuse me, Sarah, is your mic on?
Yes. I'm a resident of Bayview Drive, Kuwait, Michigan, and a registered voter in Antrim County. It is my understanding the application to rezone Torchport Air Park to commercial use contains no explanation of what kind of use is intended, and the accompanying letter contains only some general intentions. It is also my understanding that if this property is zoned commercial without any clearly applied for and documented commercial uses, including any related infrastructure requirements, the owner can legally do mostly what he wants under the commercial section of the zoning ordinance. The neighborhood surrounding this air park were purchased by homeowners who were seeking a quiet and unspoiled living environment. What this new air park owner does with his land could have a profound impact on the surrounding community. The air park property owner's future decisions could adversely impact not only the environment, but also the nearby homeowners' property values. My appeal to this commission is to carefully consider this request to rezone the Torchport Air Park through an environmental impact study and an evaluation of the potential impact on future residential property values in the immediate surrounding area of the air park. To do these studies, we would, of course, need to know more about the future intentions of the current air park owner. I previously lived in a neighborhood where a resident opened a business, which eventually led to several businesses on his property. All surrounding residents were adversely impacted by excessive noise pollution and traffic. Approximate property values plummeted and lawsuits ensued. It seems it would behoove us to take a more positive and proactive approach at this juncture to ensure the entire community's best interests are thoroughly evaluated before granting this rezoning request.
This letter is from Douglas Law. Dear members of the Torchlight Planning Commission, thank you for your service to the citizens of Torchlight Township. As a retired public school superintendent, I am well aware of the important role volunteer citizen committees play in our government. We have owned the cottage at 1776 Moulton Road since 1993. Since we are now retired, we generally spend 6 months a year on the shores of beautiful Torch Lake each year. I'm writing to you today to express my concern over the zoning request of Mr. Bays to change the Torchport Airport property from residential to commercial. In his letter of request, he refers to our aviation community. I think he meant his aviation community. Clearly, this is a hobby of his. Over the Memorial Weekend, his aviation community brought in several ultralight vehicles. The constant buzz of these flying machines over and around our quiet lakefront was a real intrusion to our holiday weekend. One of our guests even asked, "Is it always like this?" Even the loud cigarette boats racing down the middle of Torch Lake are less obnoxious as they come and go very quickly. The ultralight folks fly in circles around our bay and over our cottages again and again. I assume that the township's current strategic plan was written with certain guiding principles, and you should stick to those principles. The township has done a good job of not letting things become commercialized in our little slice of paradise. I applaud you and others who have been instrumental in changing the lake rental property requirement to a minimum of a month. The work that has been done to keep condo and keyhole communities out is greatly appreciated. We all choose to live here because of the beauty of the spot and the quaint community lifestyle we enjoy. I wonder what other hobbies Mr. Bays enjoys. Maybe a motorcycle track or a shooting range will be next. It is my understanding that once the property gets zoned commercial, any variety of businesses could be built on the property. I clearly understand that Mr. Bays has a tremendous amount of money and probably does not get told no very often. The first summer he and Tracy moved here, we had a little incident with some of his guests being reckless with jet skis in our swim area. For the first time ever, we called the sheriff with our concern. The sheriff made a visit to the Bays household. The next morning, Mr. Bays kayaked down to our waterfront and very nicely apologized for his visitors. He told me that he wanted to be a good neighbor. Bringing in ultralights to buzz around my house is not being a good neighbor. I imagine that most airports are in areas away from fairly dense housing. Over the years, our community has grown and now residences pretty much surround the airport. This change would be an issue for all of these households. Are we really sure we should even have an airport anymore? I want to thank you for the time you have given me by reading my concerns. Please move very cautiously with this request for change. I, for one, do not think it is the best interest of our township to introduce this new venture into our community.
This is from Wendy Crone, I believe is how you say the last name. Some of us are full-time Torch Lake Township residents with children in Elk Rapids Public Schools, and some of us have second homes in the township and are seasonal residents.
Sarah, pardon me again. You speak right into it. They're having trouble hearing you.
All of our properties are within a mile or so of the Torchport Air Park, and some of us own property directly across Bay Colony Road from the air park. Therefore, we have standing and a vested interest in the outcome of the new air park owner's request to change the Torchport Air Park property zoning classification from residential to commercial. We understand that the new air park owner's business objective is to create a destination air park with cabins, camping, ultralights, parachuting, longer and newly paved runways, increased flight traffic, etc., all at the commercial airport located primarily in a residential area. Over Memorial Day weekend, we saw some of the activities already, including a number of campers and vehicles on the air park property, as well as multiple ultralight aircrafts in low-level flight over our neighborhood and at treetop level flying right down the beach on Grand Traverse Bay. We believe that the Planning Commission should deny the request to change the zoning of the Torchport Air Park parcels from residential to commercial for the following reasons. The Torch Lake Township Master Plan does not support the requested zoning change. Those of us who decided to reside or purchase a second home near the air park did not do so with the anticipation of having a commercial airport and its related vehicle and aircraft traffic or other aviation-related activities nearby. Such traffic and activities would negatively impact the enjoyment of our properties and would also decrease our property values. The visible and audible impact of any airport extends a significant distance from its physical footprint, so this zoning change request cannot reasonably be viewed through the same lens as most other residential to commercial zoning change requests. Commercial activity at the airport is inexorably linked to aircraft landings and takeoff, and ultralights loiter overhead at low altitudes, all of which are noise nuisances even at a distance. Ultralight aircraft flying at treetop level over the beach on Grand Traverse Bay is at best disrespectful to neighboring property owners, and at worst a hazard to the people and property below. The proposed zoning change would increase the chance of this happening with greater frequency, increasing the risk of accidents, as the new air park owner in Torch Lake Township would have no control over such behavior. Commercial airports are available nearby in Traverse City and Charlevoix, and there is also a public Antrim County-owned airport in Bel Air with the 5,000-foot runway. Changing the Torchport Air Park zoning from residential to commercial will not benefit the public. However, it will benefit the new air park owner at the expense of surrounding residents and other property owners. There are very few businesses located in Torch Lake Township that could benefit from an increase in visitors to the Torchport Air Park. Any construction work on the runways, cabins, camping facilities, etc., would likely be done primarily by the businesses outside of Torch Lake Township. Torch Lake Township does not allow short-term rentals. Changing the zoning for Torchport Air Park parcels from residential to commercial would allow the air park's new owner to provide short-term rentals on its properties in cabins, RVs, etc. This would be inconsistent with the purpose of the township restriction on short-term rentals for other property owners, which is to prevent short-term renters from negatively impacting nearby property owners' enjoyment of their properties or their property values. Indeed, if approved, the zoning change request would result in the homeowners of Unit 21 having short-term rental parcels on 3 sides. It seems unlikely that in the township that prescribes short-term rentals, that the owner, let me start that sentence over again. Seem unlikely that the township that prescribes short-term rentals that the owner of Unit 21, which is and would still be zoned residential, should be expected to live with short-term renters on 3 sides, or the resultant property devaluation should they decide to sell. Further, short-term renters at the Torchport Air Park would bring aircraft and participate in aviation-related activities, which would create visible and audible nuisances that would impact property owners outside of the physical footprint of the air park and far more significantly than the typical residential short-term renter. In addition, it would be an unfortunate precedent for the township to allow someone to purchase property zoned residential and to thereafter change the zoning to commercial in order to allow short-term rentals. Second homeowners in the township may line up to do the same, and how could the township reasonably deny them, especially when the proposed zoning change for the air park specifically excludes an adjacent homeowner's residential property, Unit 21. Again, this zoning change request cannot be viewed through the same lens as most other residential to commercial zoning change requests. The Torch Lake Township facts page on the website says, "Our lands and waters are indeed clean, and fresh. While we do have many welcome summer visitors, our community is not what many refer to as a tourist trap. There are no strip malls filled with shops selling trinkets. Our home is simple, and we like it that way. A commercial airport and destination air park near so many residents would be inconsistent with this perspective on the of or the vision for Torch Lake Township. The strip mall would detract less than a commercial airport and destination air park right in the middle of the township. We respectfully request that the Planning Commission deny the new air park owner's request to change the zoning for the various Torchport Air Park parcels. We believe that the Planning Commission should not prioritize the desires of a new out-of-town air park owner and its business objectives over the township's master plan or over residents and property owners' quiet enjoyment of their homes or their property values.
This letter's, whoops, sorry. This letter is from Stu and Terry Caulfield. This is to inform the Torch Lake Council that we are vehemently opposed to the rezoning of the airport for commercial use. As longtime owners of the Torch Lake property, 1984, we have seen the area thrive and continue to improve in numerous ways. This rezoning, however, is very much to the detriment of the surrounding community, and as far as I can see, it is very much against the master plan for the Torch Lake Township. These are the reasons we have for opposition. Many, many expensive homes are in the flight path of the airport. Owners and tourists come up here for the peace and contentment of a rural community. None of the current residents expected to have to endure the very noisy conditions this rezoning may incur. Certainly, we did not expect to be near a large jet aircraft terminal. Number two, the fact that the owner is proposing campsites, cabins, and multiple fly-in events leads me to believe there are to be several consequences. A, congestion on an already dangerous stretch of highway at the top of the hill on 31. B, short-term rentals, cabins, and campsites that would bring unknowns into the residential neighborhood. C, people who are allowed to rent or camp directly across from both Torch Lake and the bay would certainly be looking for lake access. Many of the homes in the area are left unattended. The situation would encourage strangers to trespass upon these unattended properties. There is no knowing what damage these people would do to both the lake and homes. D, there is a considerable safety issue involved. Number one, with Torchport, I did wake up one morning to see a plane right through my clear story window. Fortunately, he missed the house. He certainly mistook Wild Cherry Lane for a runway. I surely don't need bigger planes heading into our house. Two, not that long ago, a plane did actually crash right on 31 near Leech Lane, across from the airport. In conclusion, rezoning would be terrible for the area. Most township revenue is recovered from the very expensive homes around the lakes. If you basically insert an amusement park into the area, it will most certainly drive away people who are looking for a natural and beautiful way to relax and enjoy themselves. I would think this would be an economic mistake at the very least, not to mention the noise, safety, and trespassing issues that may evolve. I would hope our township would turn down anything that would be detrimental to the atmosphere here and the beauty of the area, and not cave to the desires of only one owner who does not seem concerned at all for the uniqueness and special beauty of our area.
I don't know how you got the short ones.
I don't either.
You stacked the packet, I
Term
think.
of punishment.
I know. This is from Paul and Nancy Taylor. We are full-time residents of Torch Lake Township with children who attend. Is this one similar that was in the one?
No, that's not the same one.
Okay, Elk Rapids High School. We live at 1715 San Marino Trail, which is near the Torchport Air Park. We also own property to the east of San Marino Trail and north of Bay Colony Drive, including some land directly across Bay Colony Road from the middle of the air park's east-west runway. We are concerned about the outcome of the new air park owner's request to change the Torchport Air Park property zoning classification from residential to commercial. We understand that the new air park owner's business objective is to create a destination air park with cabins, camping, ultralights, parachuting. This is part of another one. Let me look at it just to make sure, because I don't want to reread something, but I don't want to not
Take your time, sir.
say something. Yes, this has the same bullet points that the last letter I read was, so I'll just read the closing. We respectfully request the Planning Commission to deny the new air park owner's request to change the zoning for the various Torchport Air Park parcels. Oh, and this is the same paragraph too. We believe that the Planning Commission should not prioritize the desires of new out-of-town air park owner and its business objectives over the township's master plan or over residents and property owners' quiet enjoyment of their home or their property values.
Sarah, who was the author of that one again, please?
Paul and Nancy Taylor.
If the two speakers start speaking fast because it's redundant in some of the letters, please excuse them, but we need to get through this. But your letters do matter.
I have a request. Could you turn the air conditioner just a notch? There are several people that are freezing. Just a little bit warmer, I think, right? A little bit warmer?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. Let's read the
Okay,
letter.
Maureen and Richard Lorenz. Regarding opposition to rezoning application for the Torchport Air Park. Dear Mrs. Peterson, we are submitting comments regarding zoning applications PCA 2021-2 through 34, Torchport Air Park. Please share these comments with the Planning Commission members. We recently bought a home on Bay Harbor Club Lane and are in the process of transitioning to our new home full-time. Regretfully, we are unable to attend the zoning meeting Tuesday, July 13th. One of the first things we did was look up the community's Torch Lake Master Plan that was completed in 2018. We want to congratulate you on a well-thought-out and thorough master plan. It is a very professional effort and provides guidance in all future land use decisions. Our hope is that the master plan is taken into consideration and used as a ruler for the Torchport Air Park rezoning. Our first question is whether there is some sort of variance mechanism that can grant the applicant's proposed uses under the current zoning. The airport is quaint and the grassy runways blend well into a rural countryside and pose no threat to stormwater runoff or well contamination. Beyond the discussion of a variance, we would like restrictions to be considered as part of the negotiations. If the application is for a hangar development that allows for rentable units to live in, we see as an airport motel. Restrict it to that use only. Any further use, and it must come back to the zoning board and the community to be rezoned. In no way do we support a C zoning being granted to these parcels without restrictions and a strong commitment to environmental concerns and the natural resources of the site and region. There appears to be wetlands and large tree stands on the site. The strongest commitment to leave in place and protect these natural resources should be made by the applicant in good faith to the master plan and the community. We encourage the Planning Commission to require a detailed application with plans to assess the proposed development and potential further plans for the remainder of the site to better understand the full impact of this request. As reported in the Washington Post and other resources, our area of Michigan shows greatest change for increasing temperatures in the nation. All of us should be very concerned about any proposed operation or land use change that adds pollution via burning and runoff of fossil fuels. We appreciate the opportunity to attend this hearing remotely. Thank you for giving this application and the community input your attention.
Email from Dennis Splain. I'm unable to attend the meeting due to an unexpected death of a family member downstate. I would like the Torch Lake Planning Commission and residents to have an open mind and evaluate what is best for the entire township and not just what's best for the former township zoning administrator. The changes requested at the Torch Lake Air Park by the new owners needs to be considered for merit. Obviously, the formula previously approved for the former owners was not working at the airport. Times and peoples need change. A new owner should be allowed to make his property viable and a greater asset for the township. I would expect that he has a better idea if he bought this property. Most people have a business plan with an acquisition such as this. There is already commercial property on this site. Expansion of commercial zoning on this non-lakefront, more isolated property is not a stretch. If the owner has the voting bloc to have a majority to change direction of this development, then that is the democratic process. Majority prevails. Unfortunately, all the letters written and funds raised for legal fees by one individual should not influence the course of the township takes for all, not just one, of the township taxpayers' best interest. Hopefully, anyone who has a conflict of interest or has formed opinions prior to this meeting will not influence the board or the property owners in the township. Again, please have an open mind. Seriously, ask yourself, how many other townships even have an airport? We need to appreciate that and do what we can to have it thrive one way or another.
From Ed and Rita Furdak. Proposal to rezone property located at Torchport Air Park from R1 residential to C commercial. As residents of Torch Lake Township for the past 30 years, we depend on the Torch Lake Planning Commission to place the welfare of the community and the natural features of Torch Lake Township ahead of the commercial interest of any one individual. Presently, we have serious concerns regarding the request to change the zoning of Torchport Air Park from R1 residential to C commercial. Even in its formative stages, the request is just the beginning of a speculative project that has the potential of changing the landscape in a dramatic way. If approved, we will find ourselves not recognizing the rural character of our community, nor the beauty and the significance of our natural resources as intended by the framers of the master plan. Also of concern is that the C commercial designation of the proposed project has the potential of being further expanded under section 12.03 special uses. Gas stations, drive-in or outdoor theaters, campgrounds, drive-through takeout restaurants, outdoor display and sale of merchandise, microbrewery, production and storage, outdoor events, and sexually oriented businesses are all possible under section 12.03 special uses and further exacerbate our concerns. If the Torchport Air Park owner is granted his request to rezone this property from R1 residential to C commercial, he has fertile ground to expand the scope and size of the project under section 12.03 special uses approval in violation of the current master plan objectives. Certainly, further studies are required regarding the negative impact of this project on water quality and the environment. Because of the proposed intent of the request that was submitted by the owner of the Torchport Air Park, we request that you deny the application. Thank you for your consideration for our concerns.
Charles Bingham. The purpose of this letter is to comment on the rezoning request by Torchport Air Park LLC. Unfortunately, I'm unable to attend the public hearing. First, some background. I'm a third-generation owner of property on Moulton Road and have been part-time, soon-to-be full-time township resident for over 5 decades. As you well know, our township is a primarily residential area that is unique in its location between two beautiful bodies of water. Limited commercial development has historically been largely limited to the area of the two town centers, Eastport and Torch Lake Village. These commercial entities have been valued neighbors, and some have been present for decades. All provide useful services to township residents. Torchport has been in existence since at least the 1940s, and during that time has been a private airstrip with limited commercial activity along the immediate US 31 corridor. Initially a small restaurant and service station, later a mobile gas station, and most recently an air park. Although the most recent previous owner made significant upgrades to the property and constructed several hangars and a high-end spec home, for over 80 years, the property has essentially retained its initial purpose and has been a good neighbor in our quiet, otherwise residential neighborhood. The proposed rezoning of a large portion of the airport property would be a dramatic and unwelcome change in the character of the neighborhood and indeed the entire township. I have not received any official notification of the current owner's plans for the property, so I cannot comment specifically whether the new owner will be providing a useful service to township residents. If approved, I suspect Torchport would represent the largest commercial entity in the township by far and perhaps larger than all other commercially zoned properties combined. This massive rezoning brings up many concerns. Most immediately, this large commercial entity would almost certainly negatively impact the residents of the immediate area. Potentially a much larger portion of the township would be affected if there is a significant increase in aviation traffic to Torchport. Not only would a large commercial presence in the area impair the tranquil nature of our residential neighborhood, but property values would be negatively impacted as well. Further concerns would include potential expansion of commercial venues with future as well as current owners. Once rezoning occurs, the floodgate opens to all kinds of commercial activity. Is the township prepared to provide emergency services to such a large commercial development? What are the potential environmental impacts to our watershed? In summary, the Torchport Air Park LLC request for rezoning of approximately 100 acres represents an unprecedented departure from the historical use of this property, is inconsistent with the residential nature of the area, and is counter to the current Torch Lake Township Master Plan. For decades, our township leaders have steadfastly retained the high quality of life in our township. I strongly encourage the Planning Commission to demonstrate continued good stewardship and deny the Torchport rezoning request.
Bob and Bobby Vitito. Given the purpose of zoning, control land development, ensure public is satisfied with their community, provide value to citizens who own property, keep property values stable, protect local environment, break down land use into categories to help balance and organize a community. The importance of a master plan. It provides a design for future development, a framework to control haphazard growth inconsistent with adjoining properties. It is a legal tool to protect the integrity of zoning. If not followed, zoning becomes indefensible. Permitted uses in an R1 single unit or R2 one or two unit zone. A single unit residential dwelling with accessory buildings considered necessary and compatible in a residential neighborhood. R2 adds the possibility of up to 2-unit dwelling. Anything else has to be compatible with a neighborhood and requires a special use permit. The purpose of the A1 agriculture zone, encourage agricultural activities and protect the land from non-compatible uses. C, commercial zone, to provide areas for retail businesses, professional and service establishments. However, gas stations, vehicle sales, outdoor events, campgrounds, and sexually oriented business are among uses allowed with a special use permit. In conclusion, we oppose the rezoning of the airport property land, which is surrounded by R1, R2, and A1 zones because of the following rationale. The current zoning must be upheld to protect the future of the community. The township would lose control of its land development plan. C1 is the least restrictive zone. The township could lose future legal standing for its master plan by setting a precedent of allowing zoning contrary to its stated goals. It would not provide value to township citizens or keep property values stable. It would cause a safety and security burden on its neighbors and the greater community. It would not be consistent with the local environment. It would be an intrusion on the residential and natural atmosphere of the area. It would be the largest single tract of C1 land open to a variety of uses not compatible with the R1, R2, and A1 zones surrounding it. This is a turning point for our township. It is critical that you protect the system of master planning and zoning. To grant this rezoning would set a precedent that is completely divergent from the intended purpose of planning. It doesn't matter what the current rezoning applicant wants to do with the C1 designation. Once zoned, it can become something totally different with whomever owns it.
Jeffrey and Stephanie Battershell. This is the letter. It's got a bunch of listed numbers. They did write a little something at the end that says, "We purchased our home in this residential neighborhood for its nature, beauty, and peace. Changing zoning for commercial aviation operations and lodging camping is not consistent with the expectations and desires of residents in this area and is not needed in our local community. The Charlevoix Airport and Barnes Park provide adequate aviation access and camping facilities. We respectfully do not want commercial businesses and related crowds in our residential neighborhood."
This is from Deb Graber. Good morning, Steve. As the only homeowner at the Torchport Air Park, I have a very strong interest in keeping the air park a residential air park. Attached is a map that I highlighted showing the lots being requested to be rezoned from residential to commercial. Only exception is the triangle northwest corner of Bay Colony and US 31. It is zoned agriculture, and has been requested be rezoned to commercial. Flight path for north-south landing strip. I am opposed to the rezoning. 5 empty commercial hangar lots, 4 hangars with planes, 5 storage building lots, no planes inside, 1 residential home, 30 vacant residential home and hangar sites, 1 commercial lot, T hangar rentals. Memorial Day weekend, the paramotorists all drove to the airport and camped in trailers. None of them flew in and certainly did not camp under the wing of a plane along the runway as they did 30 years ago, due to only having an aircraft and no transportation. If you would feel it helpful, I can also send you the bylaws for the air park when it was established back in 1999 and approved by the township. Local ordinances were created effective August 9th, 1983. And with the letter were some attachments that you can see on Facebook, and there are some maps that were attached.
From Janet Kitchen, please be advised that as a homeowner on Torch Lake, I strongly oppose the rezoning of the Torchport Airport. I got one.
Oh, you got one. Nice job.
Are you done?
I'm done.
You're done?
Next time you get to read 2.
Yes, I'll stay quiet.
So this letter is from the Borsucks, Kenneth, Madeline, Bennett, and Quinn. Request to rezone the Torchport Air Park. We have been long-term property owners at the end of Bay Colony Road, 1521 Bayview. We are in strong opposition to the request for commercial zoning that has been applied for on the air park land. It does not seem prudent or responsible to grant such zoning without a clear plan as to what the intended use would be. Any consideration for a change of use zoning, it should come along with restrictions limited to the agreed upon use. A blanket change in zoning for that large of a parcel is not a wise decision. Depending on the proposed use, we are concerned of any increase of traffic or pedestrians trying to get to the water through our property or neighboring properties. There are serious concerns of erosion along the waterfront, and any kind of increase in traffic through ours and neighboring properties could create long-term issues without the proper mechanisms and infrastructure in place. This has been and continues to be an ongoing issue. We value the air park and the area around it and feel that any proposed change use or zoning needs to be carefully and thoroughly thought out to ensure that it is in the best interest of the nearby property owners. Safety, sustainability, and long-term property values should all be considered to protect our investments.
Shelley Reason. It has come to our attention that a rezoning hearing is scheduled for Tuesday, July 13th, 2021, as it relates to changing the zoning of the air park from residential to commercial use. And I am unable to attend the meeting, so I am writing this letter to voice my concerns. When our property, located at 1738 Moulton Road, was purchased, the location on Torch Lake was selected due to its quiet, natural ambience rather than the hustle and bustle of the south end. My concerns with an expanded commercial setting for a rezoned air park are as follows. Negative quality of life impact due to increased noise, increased aviation activity over the lake, safety, and overall enjoyment for homeowners along Torch Lake and the bay. An increase in commercial activity and any new impervious surface will lead to increased runoff and additional detrimental effects for the wetlands, bay, and Torch Lake. We are already struggling to understand and reduce the algae in the lake. Therefore, it seems that more development is only going to increase these challenges. From reports that I've seen regarding the township's master plan, a rezoning to commercial at this location is inconsistent with the plan. Since the air park has come under new ownership, recent aviation activity has included paramotors flying as early as 6 a.m., generally much earlier than typical lake activity noise. And just within the past several days, a blue and white single-engine prop plane currently parked at the air park made an extremely low canopy level flyby approximately 30 to 40 feet off the lake's edge. It was strange because this was not a biplane that would normally fly parallel to the water's edge and wasn't flying consistent with anyone preparing to land at the air park. It was enough of an anomaly that the neighbors all came out to see if the plane was about to crash. It looked to be a very unsafe flying activity so close to the docks and homes. An increase in these types of events and activities and the possibility of adding larger planes presents a downside for the homeowners in the area, not to mention property values. While it appears the new air park owners have come up with a plan to suit their particular hobby interests or money-making ventures, I wonder if this is enough to change the zoning. Just because someone has an idea, it is appropriate for the overall community. Does it really benefit the environment and the lifestyle currently enjoyed by the lake, bay, and air park neighbor citizens? Is the township really that in need of an increased tax base with all the non-homesteaded property taxpayers? Do we really need increased aviation in this area when it already exists close by in other towns and cities? Please take these thoughts and concerns into account as you vote on zoning. Torch Lake Township is an amazingly beautiful gem unlike anywhere else. Increased commercial activity, as is currently proposed, will negatively impact the character of the area. Please keep all the residents in mind, not just one business owner with big ideas.
This is from Charles Mueller, and bear with me, he hand wrote his letter. I stand opposed to the rezoning to commercial from R1 for the reasons below. The sponsor of this change cannot be trusted based on what he has already done to his neighbors in the Airport Homeowners Association. This project is not in sync with the current Torch Lake Township Master Plan. The use of paramotors over R1 properties, especially those heavily wooded, should be made illegal. These aircraft do their flying over the junction of shore with water where the thermals exist. That is along the populated shorelines of Grand Traverse Bay and Torch Lake. These are very noisy and intrusive. Fly over our beaches and privacy. The pilot sits on a can of gasoline. They are subject to danger in wind gusts and high wind areas. A wind gust could take them into our woods. A crash and possible fire resulting would threaten our woods and homes. They would be outlawed as they are in Canada. If the zoning change goes through, this man could do whatever he wants with the property, maybe an amusement park, maybe Wally World. What he proposes, short-term rentals, is not possible for R1 residences adjacent. Is that fair? Please take careful consideration of these and other arguments against this proposal? Thank you.
Laura Mueller Willard. I'm writing to express my opposition to the application from Torchport Air Park LLC to rezone several parcels from R1 and agricultural to commercial. The rezoning request is completely in conflict with the Torch Lake Township Master Plan, and it would open up a Pandora's box in the future for the community, as future owners will have a very wide range of permissible uses under our commercial zoning. My family has been in Antrim since the 1940s, both as summer residents and retirees. After 20 years of vacationing at my father's home on San Marino Trail, I purchased a home last fall after my husband's retirement. We enjoyed a consistent, high-quality experience in the township for 20 years. After reading the Torch Lake Township Master Plan, we became convinced that the other residents and the town leadership are committed to preserving it. An excerpt from the Torch Lake Township Master Plan that helped guided us. During public participation sessions conducted for the plan, residents repeatedly expressed their desire for the township to retain its existing rural character, including its friendly and peaceful atmosphere, and to protect its environmental resources such as its small town character, high water quality, and productive farms and forests. The rezoning request would create a massive increase in commercially zoned property in the township, over a doubling. The air park is surrounded by residential properties. A massive new commercial zone in that location is also at odds with the master plan's goal to direct future commercial within the two hamlets of Eastport and Torch Lake and away from the lake shores within the township. We are very concerned about the activity that Mr. Bays has vaguely described for the rezoned property, but we are even more concerned about what might happen in the future and what future owners would be free to do with commercial zoning. This one zoning change could destroy the current character of the township and will eventually, if not now, undermine the township master plan. We strongly feel that the township should stick to the master plan and its published goals and agree, and to quote the plan, reaching these goals is only possible if decisions made by the Torch Lake Township Planning Commission and other public bodies respect the ideas stated in this plan. Thank you for your willingness to serve the township and the effort that went into creating the township master plan and zoning ordinance.
This is from Judy King, 11994 Fisher Drive. Dear Zoning Administrator, I would like to register an objection to a change of zoning for the parcels of land surrounding the Torchport Air Park. Those of us who have homes in this area love the pristine lakes and the trees and the agricultural character of the township. That is why we live here. Many of us left places to escape commercial development. To change the character of our township should be considered regress, not progress. Please conserve our environment and the character of our township.
James and Lauren McCourt, thank you for the opportunity to address the citizens of the township, the planning commission, and the new owner of the Torchport Air Park. As I'm sure this will be a long meeting for all, I plan to keep our message brief and succinct. My name is James McCourt, and along with my wife Lauren, we purchased the property that is directly across from the Torchport Air Park on 1140 US 31 North in 2019. Like many in attendance this evening, our decision to purchase the property was founded in the rural, peaceful, and residential atmosphere provided by the Torch Lake Township. Our family has resided in the township for over 30 years, and we feel it is our responsibility to our fellow property owners to voice our concerns. Regardless of the current property owner's near-term intentions, I would urge the Planning Commission to consider the Torch Lake Township Master Plan, most recently adopted in 2018. Specifically, the general goals of future land use on page 54. You'll read that to uphold the policies of future land use, the township shall retain its rural character by preservation of small community centers in Eastport and Torch Lake villages. We fear that rezoning the Torchport Air Park, which is not in either of the small community centers, but a pristine rural setting, would be directly against the vision and spirit of the master plan. The master plan asks its citizens to envision what the township could be in 20 years, and that too is what I asked the Planning Commission. Rezoning at the request of the current property owner opens up a myriad of possibilities that are detrimental to property owners and taxpayers and overtly against the principles of the master plan. Lastly, we would like to note that we have nothing personally against the current property owner. Our opposition to the rezoning has nothing to do with the property owner and only about the preservation of the township, its rural character, and the policies of the Torch Lake Township Master Plan.
From Stephen Martell. Dear Mr. Stridiron, I have owned property in Torch Lake Township for more than 30 years. I've been a full-time resident for more than 20 years. I live near the airport. The airport and its uses for small, privately owned planes was not an intrusive accompaniment to our life here. The idea of the residential air park was also very compatible with the surrounding properties. The increase in purchase of private homes in the north by persons from more populated areas of the state and country, and the phenomenon of being able to work from home initiated by the COVID pandemic, I would think would make the air park very attractive place to locate, especially for those who also have a small airplane. Commercial growth and development in Torch Lake Township has been directed by the people of this township to the two villages, Eastport and Torch Lake. The proposal of making 100 acres of the airport property commercial, opening it up now and in the future to various kinds of commercial use, including eliminating airport use altogether, I believe is not compatible in this area or in this township. It will not enhance quality of life we enjoy in this community. I ask the Planning Commission to vote no on this rezoning change.
This is from Stacy Wright. Northern Michigan invokes many emotions and memories in those who revere it. What do we revere? I want to believe you. Oh, do you? Sorry. I want to believe you do, since you serve on the township board. But the proposed happenings at the Torchport Air Park give rise to major concerns and need some oversight, some serious, heavy-handed oversight from you, the board. We are against rezoning from residential to commercial use in any of the lots in the Torchport Condo Association. We are against the development of camping, short-term rental cabins, or RV sites in the Torchport area, and we own an RV. We are adamantly against paving or extending either runway at Torchport Air Park. And finally, we are against the selling of aviation fuel at Torchport Air Park. None of the proposed above will enhance property values adjacent, near, or anywhere within miles of the air park. There are far-reaching effects that should be considered: environmental, leakage and runoff of jet fuel into both Torch Lake and Lake Michigan, migratory patterns and habitats of birds and other animals in the area, excessive constant noise from paramotors, drones, flying planes low for landing over the lake and immediate houses, the delicate balance of the wetlands, the diminishment of property values. We don't need Disneyland on the north end of Torch Lake. I repeat, we do not need Disneyland on this end of the lake. Lastly, are proper permits being pulled for all the proposed enhancements? Or is the developer hoping to do everything he wants to do and then ask and get your forgiveness later after he's destroyed most of what makes Northern Michigan magical? What is the point of ordinances that are supposed to be for the good of the community if you are going to throw them aside for the good of a very, very small group? I don't get it. You are supposed to be the watchmen for the community, the keepers of the torch, the ones making sure ordinances are adhered to and zoning laws are not trampled upon. There are things afoot that are going to change Torch Lake forever and not for the better. And I'm not talking about the algae. And I have to ask, where are you, the enforcers?
This is from Ralph Delvecchio. This is Ralph and Diane Delvecchio, and we live at 1965 San Marino Trail. We are very much opposed to the rezoning of Torchport Air Park from residential to commercial. We have read Paul Taylor's letter, and we agree with all the points he brings up about how the rezoning will negatively affect the area and the residents. That was the letter that was read earlier on already. Taylor, from the Taylors. We live on Torch Lake and moved here in February. We wanted a more peaceful atmosphere, and we feel that we have found it on the bay. However, if this rezoning is passed, there will be more noise and activities that will draw more people and traffic to the area. The peacefulness of this area will be gone, and isn't that why people pick this area to live? Also, once it is rezoned commercial, we will not have any control over what is put there. As long as it fits in the criteria of commercial according to the township rules, anything can be built there and it will be out of our hands. Therefore, we want our names added to Paul Taylor's letter stating our opposition to the Torchport Air Park rezoning. Please note our concerns and put them on record. And they attached Paul Taylor's letter, which was read earlier tonight.
Betsy Mayer, I'm writing to express my concern over the recent request by the owners of the Torchport Airport. It would seem like granting permission to rezone the airport from residential to commercial is giving the current and/or future owner permission to do whatever they want with the property without regards to the residents of Torch Lake Township. We need to protect Torch Lake Township and preserve its beauty for both the current and future residents. I am a third-generation Torch Lake Township resident, and I live here because of the beauty and charm of the area. Some of the most beautiful property in the state and country is in Torch Lake Township. I enjoy seeing the bald eagles, which I'm told has a nest on the airport parcel. I cherish the peace and quiet where I live on Bayview. I implore you, please do not let that change. The activities that occurred over the Memorial Day weekend, in my opinion, has set the tone that Tim Bays will do whatever he wants with no regards to permits and requirements by the township. I attended the meeting at the township prior to Memorial Day and was shocked to hear Mr. Bays state that he was not aware of any advertising promoting the Torchport weekend event. That was a blatant lie. Attached documents supporting my claim. He is a member of a social media group that was advertising his event on social media, which was open on the public domain, visible to anyone throughout the world with internet connection. The paramotors were coming close to our home in Beach. Our neighbor said the paramotor came uncomfortably close while they were kayaking. How was he even allowed to have 30 minutes of fireworks when there was fire hazard warnings due to unreasonably dry conditions? Torchport is a large parcel of land, and if permission is granted to change it to commercial, this would have a tremendous impact on the beauty of this area. Has the owner presented any long-term plans with regard to the property? It appears that Mr. Bays would like to make changes to Torchport Airport to suit what he wants and not what the residents of the township want. I'm requesting that you deny the request for rezoning, do what is best for the township, and not comply with one property owner.
Letter from Christine Harvey. Good morning, Mr. Stridiron. I have been made aware of the request for rezoning for the parcel of land, and I am writing to voice my objection. I am a resident on Golden Beach Drive, so live in fairly close proximity to the airport and have concerns that a change is being requested without a clear and binding description of how the property is used to be in the future. I understand that there are some things that could be done that would not require any future permission, and this scares me. The thought that it might be changed into a park where paramotors, which are fairly unregulated and not without dangers and noise, could congregate scares me. I also wonder about the one resident who bought in good faith and has made that home. What would this type of change do? Is this type of change respectful of his or her rights? Please vote no on the matter. Thank you. Christine Harvey, Golden Beach Drive.
This is Denise, and it's Despesi? I don't know how to say it. Despses. And this is the this is the Paul Taylor letter that was read previously.
This letter's from William Vorak. Thank you for the great and important work you and all the township staff do in support of the township residents. My name is William Vorak. My home is at 1682 Moulton Road, about 1/4 mile from the Torchport property. This is my permanent residence. I live here, pay taxes here, and vote here in the township. I love the quality of life and the uniqueness of our township. I have lived all over the country in 11 states, in fact. It is here that I choose to call our home for my family years ago. I oppose the application that you will be making a decision on, rezoning of many acres of R1 residential to commercial. The work that you and your predecessors have done to designate this as R1 is based upon the input and interests of residents current and past. It is zoned R1 on purpose, not a mistake that needs to be fixed as the applicant has described it. Community planning and land use zoning, when done well, as it has been done in our township, is what makes each unique and special. Those activities in Torch Lake Township have been based upon years of resident input. Our land use plan and zoning ordinances serve as our guides, as your guides for the future. They should serve as guides for the decision you'll be making tonight. When community planning and zoning is not done well, or when those efforts are not used as a guide for decisions, inconsistency and land use incompatibility are the result. Then either all communities look pretty much the same, or they are not recognizable for being a special place. Our land use plan specifically calls for commercial development to be concentrated in our existing hamlets of Eastport and Torch Lake. We have larger commercial villages in our county. Approving any rezoning, any additional acreage at Torchport would be inconsistent with our plan and be incompatible with the surrounding land uses. A decision to rezone any of the parcels to commercial may satisfy a small portion of the township population at the expense of all others. That zoning would stay with the property and could allow many different incompatible uses. The applicant knowingly purchased an R1. If there are commercial development interests, they should have bought commercial property. And although a small matter, many of the parcels requested for rezoning do not meet the 1 acre minimum requirement. Please make public decisions for the community at large, as that is how it is described in our land use plan. I believe you'll find that community at large, like me, opposing this rezoning.
Susan Coy Kendall. I was only alerted to this proposed zoning change by other members of our homeowners association on July 12th. I, along with my partner Steve Patrick, live in Colorado currently. However, we have a second home in the Paradise Estates subdivision very near this property. We intentionally bought an older home to fix up because we wanted to preserve the history of the area. Our cabin was built in 1937 and likely was the oldest residence in our small neighborhood. While making it livable, because hopefully it will become our permanent residence very soon, we have tried to keep in mind the integrity of the house and its place in the Torch Lake community overall. Having now been there for a few weeks during sporadic times during the past 4 years, we are a bit shocked by the amount and extent of traffic noise on 31, but we are trying to cope like everyone else while minimizing our impact on this magical place. My father bought a piece of land on Torch Lake in 1952, which he has never built on. And so in my mind, Antrim County has always been special. And I always knew I'd return to Michigan after growing up in Southfield and then going to school in Kalamazoo. Our home in Colorado, similar to Antrim, is in a recreation-based tourist area, Gunnison County. We are thus familiar with many of the growing pains that go along with trying to nurture an economy while hoping to preserve the beauty and peacefulness that comes from nature. There is a smaller commercial airport in Gunnison, which gets 2 small jets a day during ski season and about 4 or 5 smaller planes daily. For years, I've had a condominium very near that airport, actually fronting the single runway. The noise was horrific, and it only got worse with time. I recall walking my dog and us both being terrified when a plane came in unexpectedly when I was at the water park on the river, and it seemed like it was going to land on my head. Crested Butte, which is 30 miles up the highway, has a much smaller airport, which has also had issues with noise and safety. It is similar to Torchport, but surrounded by mountains. At one point, a subdivision developer attempted to create a fly-in, fly-out subdivision for rich people outside of Crested Butte, but it never took root to be successful. We are now just left with ugly scars on the land where he tore everything up and then went bankrupt. So our history in mind, we are concerned with this proposal. Our concerns are summarized below in no particular order. Our first set of concerns is about noise and traffic and their adverse impacts on wildlife, people, and more generally. As a psychologist, I know that noise has negative mental health impacts. Airports are noisy and have noise as a matter of business. The wildlife that occupy this strip of land between Lake Michigan and Torch Lake are already subjected to a lot of human-generated noise and stress, along with the constant threat of being mowed down by semis. We already have bad traffic on US 31, with people driving 70 miles per hour on a regular basis between Charlevoix and Elk Rapids. Putting in an airport is only going to make that worse. Besides, with airports to the south and north that are within 50 miles each direction, it is difficult to understand why someone would want to place yet another commercial airport in this fragile ecosystem. Our second and related set of concerns arise in regard to the scope and nature of the inevitable commercial businesses which will follow any modification to the zoning. Those which immediately come to mind are car rentals, convenience stores, and gas stations, both for aviation fuel and for cars. How is it possible to safely accommodate such businesses on a small piece of land that sits between two giant bodies of water? Clean water and pristine land are precious commodities in our current world. So changing zoning in one of the most physically giving areas of the state to allow for blacktop and concrete seems like a dumb direction to take. Our third concern goes without saying, but I'll say it anyways. We can't imagine a scenario in which developing an airport in this location would help any homeowner's property valuation. Instead, potential buyers who are likely seeking peace and serenity away from the city noise, traffic, and endless development will likely be put off by the same fears and observations we put forth briefly above. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Sorry that this was written hastily, but I have to get back to my work. My partner and I are unable to attend the meeting for various reasons, but we appreciate the board taking comments and concerns about the proposal. Thanks for all you do.
This is from Chris and Patty Bean, and it's the same letter format as the Taylors.
Susan and Larry Ponmon, Ponemon. We live on Torchview Drive for a variety of reasons, including the safety of township residents. We strongly oppose the rezoning of the Torchport Airport. We hope the right decision will be made.
Well, I already read Bob Spencer's letter, so now it's
Back to me again.
back to you. Yep.
That's okay. Ron Boudrose. I am opposed to the rezoning the 33 Torchport parcels from residential and agricultural to commercial zoning as recently requested by Tim Bays of Torchport Air Park LLC. Among the many reasons for denying the requests are: 1, the creation of a contiguous 200-plus acre commercial zone is inconsistent with the 2018 master plan. 2, the creation of a contiguous 200-plus acre commercial zone is inconsistent with the zoning of surrounding parcels. 3, the noise and especially the safety issues associated with increased activities of a commercially zoned airport in a residential area would be a significant change and would be a serious negative impact on the entire area well beyond the physical boundaries of the parcel in question. Therefore, the rezoning request is not in the public interest and should be denied.
This is from Glenn Ackerman, Glenn and Meg Ackerman. To our Planning Commission representatives, we adamantly oppose the requests by Torchport Air Park LLC to rezone parcels on the property from R1 to commercial. As neighbors across from the air park, we have many concerns about this request as it relates to the word and intent of the master plan, the infringement of our rights and neighboring property owners, and most importantly, the long-term impact of this request 20, 50, or 100 years down the road. In this letter dated April 7, 2021, Mr. Bays, someone who has relatively recently purchased properties in the area, is really off base in assuming that just about anyone can see the planned housing development failed miserably. We do not view it as a miserably failed development in need of commercialization. With a well-established airport already in Antrim County, as well as Charlevoix and Traverse City, we definitely do not need another. We should be looking at good planning practices and consolidate the resources and disruptions to others to fewer, not more airports. If someone is inconvenienced by the 25-minute drive from Charlevoix or Bel Air, then perhaps northern Michigan is not a destination they should consider visiting. Keep the parcels zoned residential as the appropriate zoning based on our township's master plan. Issues of particular concern for us include, if rezoned commercial, this would be a very short-term decision with a long-term impact with negative consequences for our rural community. We value the work that the Planning Commission has put into developing the master plan and the fact that long-term vision is key. We need to recognize the work that goes into developing a master plan and that plan's impact on our property values. Number 2, we bought our home here in Torch Lake Township specifically because of the rural character. The occasional single-engine plane, while loud overhead, was minor in impact, and we have appreciated the giving back of the annual fly-in pancake breakfasts. To dramatically increase air traffic would severely infringe on our rights to peacefully enjoy our home. 2 specific cases in point of what we are already experiencing with the new ownership of the Torchport include the low buzzing paramotors that infested the skies very early in the morning and late in the evening around Memorial Day weekend. Worse, and much more frightening, was a plane whose owner was camping at the Torchport over Independence Day weekend. Not only did the owner come wandering down our neighborhood's drive with his dog looking for the lake, but the following day he buzzed several houses along the shoreline no more than 20 to 30 feet above the docks and shore stations, with its wings tipped to almost vertical. To allow transient travelers to come and stay at the airport, especially since it does not have any access to the lakes or other things that most people come to northern Michigan to experience, we will end up with a blatant disregard for our residents. This is not what we want. This request is not consistent with the master plan and future land use map. While the parcels were once zoned commercial, the township engaged in appropriate planning practices and rezoned these parcels to residential. From a modern planning perspective, that was absolutely the correct decision. Condensing commercial zones to select locations, such as M88 and US 31, prevents sprawl and its ensuing blight, and thereby keeps the residential property values higher.
I'm just going to spell this name because I'm really going to butcher it. The first name is Gela, and the last name is Boebel. Please put me on record as being strongly opposed to rezoning acreage at the Torchport Air Park from residential to commercial. Commercial areas should be concentrated in the hamlets that already exist in order to maintain the township's identity. This is a residential and agricultural community that supports the nature and a beauty that is not found many other places. It is a treasure that deserves our respect. As this process progresses, please honor the master plan that was thoughtfully and intentionally scribed. Please hear the concerns and pleas of the majority, the homeowners and taxpayers, many of whom have loved and respected the beauty here for years, even generations.
Letters from Dennis Thorley. Dear Torch Lake Township leadership and Planning Commission members, I'm writing to express my family's objection to the proposed zoning changes at the air park. We own 2 properties in the township, 3815 Michigan Trail and 1577 Bayview Drive. Our home at 1577 Bayview Drive is in the trajectory of the east-west runway on the bay. When we purchased the home in 1999, the airport was a concern. But the then recent zoning to residential and the air park development plans gave us comfort with sort of a cap on the number of flights we could expect at the airport. Truthfully, we didn't think the air park was going to be successful. We also counted on the fact that the township master plan would protect that area from ever becoming commercial. We have made significant investment in our property under these reasonable assumptions. Like others in the township, these homes are the foundation for our family gatherings and are generational. Like my parents, our children and their children intend to keep our traditions alive with the family gatherings for vacations, holidays, and friends get-togethers, and of course, living in the community. In every way, these homes are the nucleus of our family unit. The applicant's plan, as much as we know, has 0 tangible, specific, or quantifiable benefits to our community. If implemented, it will benefit a very narrow group of aviators that may or may not reside in the township. These aviators are not underserved. They have exceptional, larger, safer airports, 20 to 30 minutes by car to the north, south, and east. It will also likely benefit the hobbyist, paramotor flyers for which the application has an affinity for. This concerns us. The majority of paramotors are powered by two-stroke engines that could never pass watercraft emissions testing, and their offensive noise resembles a flying chainsaw or 20-year-old snowmobile. I think it is reasonable to want the township to protect us from the noise and pollution directly over our homes. If the township allows this zoning change, there will be a significant increase in aviation traffic. We believe the applicant's plan, or possibly others' commercial plans for the property succeeding the current owner, will have a serious, irreversible, detrimental effect on the enjoyment of our property. Thank you for your consideration, and I look forward to seeing you tonight.
David and Donna Miller, as longtime year-long residents on is it Marina? What? Okay, that's what I was saying before, and then I was like, maybe that's not right. Okay. Trail, we feel strongly that the application for rezoning of the Torchport Airport from residential to commercial should be denied. This is right in the middle of a residential area with abundant wildlife and a fragile surrounding ecosystem. Many of us moved here because it is so pristine and quiet. What's the point of a zoned community if we blithely grant requests for rezonings that will dramatically change the character of the area, not to mention reducing the values of our homes?
This is from Jennifer and Aaron, Ramasamy. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Dear Mr. Stridiron, as the Planning Commission Chair, my husband and I are writing you to voice our opposition to the rezoning of the Torchport Air Park from residential to commercial. This rezone would be in direct violation of the Township Master Plan, of which we have a copy from 2018. We would like our letter read into the record at the Township meeting on July 13th. We are Torch Lake Township homeowners and taxpayers, having lived in our current home for 16 years. It appears that in the application, the owner, Tim Bays, did not explain his intended use of the Torchport Air Park property. The rezoning application does not formally specify the intended commercial use for the 100-plus acres, likely being vague for a reason and likely at the guidance of his attorney. We have no doubt that this was purposefully done in order to leave open the opportunity in the future for nearly any business to be placed in that location. Failing to state clearly applied for and documented commercial use or other requirements will allow the owner to do basically whatever he wants from a commercial standpoint, with little left for us property owners, taxpayers, voters to say or do about it, despite needing prior approval for certain businesses, gas stations, for example. Lack of specifying intended use of Torchport Air Park creates an incomplete application for a zoning change. It would be helpful if the board could explain why an incomplete application was accepted at all. This current application leaves us vulnerable to any business adventure that Timothy Bays wants to subject us to. Motels, campgrounds, airport expansion, aircraft expansion, larger personal commercial jets, professional offices, other businesses, holiday weekend events, etc. The current application also leaves us open to environmental concerns, noise, air, water issues. We live in an excellent location, 13 miles from the Charlevoix Airport and 20 miles from the Cherry Capital Airport in Traverse City. This change to the airport is unnecessary and would be a real issue for the one home located at the airport and all of the surrounding area residential neighborhoods. We are in a fairly rural area unless driving along the lakes in the neighborhoods, those areas being heavily populated. We were unfortunately subjected to the activities, paramotors, over Memorial Day weekend. We are irritated with the fact that we're dealing with the noise and safety issues in relation to a hobby in which Timothy Bays partakes. Yet we were subjected to said hobby. Was this a permitted event? Were the proper permits were pulled for him to engage in such activities at the air park and directly over Torch Lake. The paramotors were very low flying over our home and were noisy, with us being located in their direct flight path to Torch Lake. Paramotors were not mentioned in Mr. Bay's application. No doubt this will become a larger event in upcoming years. Was any consideration given to homeowners at the air park or in the nearby flight zone housing area? None that we could see. We purchased our home because Torch Lake Township is such a quiet and tranquil place to live, absolutely beautiful with needed amenities nearby. We did not move here to be in the direct flight path of low-flying paramotors or whatever type and size aircraft that Mr. Bays is hoping to accommodate at the current park. While perusing the FAA website, we could see that there were few regulations in relation paramotors other than the following. Number one, stay out of heavily populated areas. Number two, no flying before dusk or after dawn. The term heavily populated seems vague. What is heavily populated in California may carry different meaning in Michigan. For example, we are homeowners living near Timothy Bays and his continuous construction home process, removal of trees, near constant construction, weekend and late evening construction work, trade work crews driving up and down our road, and the burning of debris on his property. This speaks to his lack of care and empathy for his neighbors and gives us a glimpse into what may be the future for all of us township property owners, taxpayers, and voters. It is our hope that the Torch Lake Planning Commission understands its responsibility to us taxpayers, property owners, and voters in relation to this rezoning request. This is a beautiful place to live and should remain enjoyable for all who live here, not to be subject to the will of one businessman / hobbyist. Thank you for your consideration with our rezoning concerns.
Pamela Anderson, please adhere to the current master plan. I say no to a giant airport, will ruin our neighbor. Thanks.
Shelley and Mike Ellis. My husband is having a heart procedure tomorrow. Otherwise, we would be attending the meeting. We are opposed to any changes at the airport. We are against it becoming commercial property. Northern Michigan is as great as it gets. The natural beauty and its wonder is what draws us to our piece of paradise. The serenity is therapeutic. We do not live on 31, almost across from the airport, and there is, of course, the sounds of highway traffic. Oh, we do live on 31. Commercial business would intensify traffic and noise. Somehow having commercial business in the midst of homes, vacation homes, play and recreation, and quaint farmland does not fit by any means. We embrace the still of the night, the darkness and the starry nights, meteor showers, northern lights, and glimpse of heaven. Nature does not need interference. Even the flight traffic coming in to land is somewhat nerve-wracking as the come in over our home and towering not much above the trees, and at times they are rocking wing to wing, never knowing their expertise or condition of their plane. Last year, a very large plane kept taking off and coming in at least 12 times, very close to the tops of the trees. It was very unsettling. We would appreciate beyond words and emotion, this property is not commercialized. We know you must think like us. This is our home and community.
Kathy and Carl Dittman. My husband Carl and I purchased our home in Torch Lake Township August of 2020. We are year-round tax-paying voters in the township. We have numerous concerns over this rezoning request and lots of questions about the proposed development. One, why is the new owner requesting the zoning change? Is it for the entire 100 acres? We have heard rumors but have not seen anything concrete as to what the new owner plans. 100-acre rezoning to commercial without a concrete binding plan is giving the owner carte blanche to develop a large parcel with commercial development. People buy homes and property based on a coherent zoning plan and do not expect such a drastic zoning change for such a large parcel. Two, is it true the proposed zoning change is to allow the owner to sell parcels to people interested in paramotoring? Is this consistent with the requested zoning change? Can commercial lots be utilized for personal use for paramotoring and camping? Again, we are disappointed that the township would make a significant zoning change without having a binding plan from the owner. Is there sufficient infrastructure for handling water and waste from RVs? Is the plan to sell 1-acre sites, half-acre, even smaller? We feel this presents significant noise and nuisance, especially to residents in close proximity to the airport. 3, paramotors are noisy. There are no training requirements or licenses required to operate a paramotor. There are no inspections required for the aircraft. These aircraft carry fuel. They can also fly low and in close proximity to people, buildings, etc., because they do not have to adhere to any setbacks. We do not want noisy aircraft buzzing up and down the lakeshore. 4, does the township have a noise ordinance? How is it enforced, and what has been the experience of residents relating to noise complaints? Our feelings is that the proposed zoning change will bring noise and nuisance to the township. We are against changing the zoning.
This is from Joan and Steve Seisno. We are writing you to voice our strong concerns with the rezoning of the Torchport Air Park lots from residential to commercial. We feel it would be detrimental to the surrounding area and affect the quality of life for those that have moved to the area seeking a peaceful way of life for themselves and for future generations. Once such a zoning change has been made, future endeavors are not clear-cut. What has always been a quiet area with occasional use by pilots of small aircraft has the chance of becoming something larger, noisier, and a distraction from the peace and quiet enjoyed by the surrounding neighbors. Please help us retain the integrity of the air park. Keep the lots residential and let commercial development exist in that part of the town where it was part of the original plan.
John King, hello, I would like to make a comment about the request for zoning change to the Torchport properties. I have not heard firsthand the plans for the future Torchport property. However, I would be opposed to the rumors I have heard about the development of a jet-accessible airport and changing residential lots to commercial for VIP use. This exclusive by design project would not have any benefit to the locals and would instead create noise pollution and detract from the local character.
This is a voicemail from Ann Bird, Torch Point Lane. Unable to attend meeting, unable to email against not following master plan. Sounds like massive invasion, not well thought out. Voice my opinion against rezoning to commercial property.
And this is the last one of the night. I'm sorry you're going to hear both of us all night long in your dreams, but this is from Marianne Jorgensen. I have questions about blanket rezoning at Torchport Airport, one of them being which is correct. The notice of public hearing that lists units 16 through 46 plus 3 other acreage parcels, or a letter dated 4/7/21 from the air park owner stating approval only requested for 17 lots of the 35 vacant lots in this first round of applications. A concern I have regards the third paragraph in the same 4/7/21 letter stating, in addition, the runways, taxiways, and common elements of our condominium association is currently using the residential zoned lots, which I have been told by township officials is not allowed. Having served as president of Torchport Airport Condominium Association, as well as presidents of Venture North, Inc., the owner of the development, I've spent considerable time with attorneys, Torch Lake Township Planning Commission, and engineers plus surveyors. The Torch Lake Township Planning Commission approved final drawings signed by Billy Russell, chairman, on June 15th, 2002, that reveal approval for taxiways to run adjacent to roads and to occupy the setbacks footage of the residential lot. A similar unorthodox use of setback footage is shown on Hanger Way. Although Torchport Airport has been in existence since 1945, it is wrong for the applicant to say, I get the fact that it is legally non-conforming. Torchport Airport has met all zoning requirements of the Planning Commission, including that the commercial area approved was for aircraft-related uses. Torch Lake Township Planning Commission definitions state, airport hangar is a building serving only to house uses that support or contribute to an airport operation, such as a storage, repair, and or maintenance of aircraft, flight operations, flight instructions, and aircraft charter service. The housing, servicing, and storage of vehicles or materials other than aircraft shall be allowed to the extent that said items are used for the sole purpose of maintaining the airport and runways, i.e. snowplows and mowing equipment. Additionally, the owner may store and maintain personal property within the hangar only. No outside storage shall be allowed. The Planning Commission should be aware, if they are not, that significant acreage was added to the VNI holding after their first approval that is not part of the condominium complex, including tax parcel 027-00 and parcel 008-00, as well as parcels 024-00 and 025-00 along US 31 zoned residential. The township has very little commercial or business zone property for growth, but whether tax parcel 01700 marked parcel E on applicant's map should be rezoned is questionable in my opinion. The 927 east-west runway used the north portion of both tax parcels 017-00 and 021-00.
Sarah, Virginia, great job. Thank you so much. And by the way, they volunteered. They'll probably rethink that again, okay? With that said, I'd like to open up the meeting for public commentary. Barbara Boudros will read the names to come up to speak in front of the microphone. Just a reminder, please do not read your letter again if it's already been read. We're trying to move the meeting along, but your comments are well taken. Barbara?
Yeah, the first speaker is John Sala.
Matthew 7:15-20 begins with, "Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing." And it continues, "You will know them by their fruits." And it further goes, "Bad trees do not bear good fruits." As a near neighbor to Mr. Bays, I can attest to the truth of that passage from the Bible. Past behaviors presage future conduct. Constant construction noise at the residence for 2+ years, failures to post building permits, construction work initiated before permits have been issued, work routinely carried out outside of permitted hours, and generally unpleasant interactions with near neighbors. Of course, construction violations are legal matters, and being an obnoxious person is not a crime. As to FAA violations by pilots using Torchport Airport, I have witnessed firsthand egregious violations of flight safety requirements since his purchase. To wit, repeated reckless endangering of life on the parts of ultralight paraplanes, flying close to the ground and then brushing the treetops on the east-west runway area, as well as one pilot at treetop level on an adjacent property to his on Torch Lake. These are accidents waiting to happen that would require Torch Lake EMS involvement, flying people out to a hospital, and then secondly, and perhaps even more dangerously, a light plane with blue wings and a blue stripe down its fuselage flew so low, 3 to 4 feet above the waterline in front of my cottage and over nearby docks and hoists. Several neighbors can corroborate my statement of facts in this matter. The plane is based at Torchport, and I'm conjecturing that its pilot and/or its owner can be identified by his pre-flight plan or by ownership's certification of the number on his fuselage. First-hand accounts I have received from others attest to behaviors of the past in the downstate that should give pause to granting variances to Mr. Bays' airport request. I would strongly urge a very close forensic audit of his past financial and business dealings on the part of the township's legal counsel, as they may shed light on what could be viewed as habitual and problematic conduct. Increased flights and hardscape installations, firefighting, PFAS, gas, chemicals, which are contaminants, Fuel lakes and spills at the margins of wetlands and lakes all are inimical to the environment we cherish, as is inappropriate shoreline development, especially landscaping and lack of noise enforcement, all of which are part of our master plan proscriptions against certain conduct. Property owners know the rules going in, or at least they have done due diligence they should know. Ignorance and scofflaw behavior are not excuses. For these reasons and others to be discovered on closer review, I oppose any attempt to dramatically alter residents' quality of life that led to them being homeowners in a safe, secure, and environmentally sound semi-rural area. Thank you for your attention and your future action on the concerns I have articulated.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Frank Miller.
Thank you, Barb. So I live on Easy Street, 11782 Easy Street with my wife Alice. And I'd like to begin my brief remarks by quoting Lou Holtz, a legendary coach at Notre Dame. Upon welcoming perhaps his most spectacular class of incoming freshman football players, he said this. He said, "Boys, you're at Notre Dame now. You will become us. We will not become you." In Torch Lake Township, we value certain things. Our waters, our hardwood and pine forests, our wildlife, our darkness, our quiet. Our zoning master plan reflects these values. The zoning request before us does not. In the short time we've been able to observe Mr. Bays' actions, he seems not to share our values or care about the things that are important to us. His actions at his home and at Torch Lake, his home on Torch Lake and at the air park, has spoken loudly and painful to me, and it sounds like to many other people in this room. We did not ask you to come here to destroy the things that are important to us. If, however, you'd like to share our values and become one of us, we will welcome you with open arms. I respectfully request that this petition be denied.
Thank you.
Next, William DeVork.
Mr. Chair, my letter's been read. I have any additional information to share.
Thank you very much.
Glenn Ackerman. I think we have
Same thing, our opinions have been.
Thank you.
Bruce Leach.
Good evening, everyone. I appreciate the time to share some comments with everybody this evening. My name is Bruce Leach. My family's been coming up here for over 80 years. Our property is right off the east end of runway 927. And I'm really concerned about this petition. It's unique, though, however, that I'm also a private pilot. I love to fly. I have over 1,500 hours. I've flown into Torchport several times. I love flying. I love airplanes. However, I don't feel Torchport's a safe place. I also quit flying in here about 5 years ago when I realized that it is disruptive to this community. And Belair is a great airport, and it's 20 minutes away. I started putting my plane over there in a hangar. The other problem with Torchport is there's no fuel. So even if you fly in here, you've got to go somewhere else to get fuel, whether it's Traverse City or Belair. So for me, from a safety perspective, it's a concern. In fact, if you take off on runway 9, if the wind's blowing out of the east, it's not a safe runway to take off on because there's trees sitting there. They happen to be my trees, and I'm not planning to mow them down anytime soon. So I would respectfully ask that this be denied and keep the peace, quiet, and the environment that we've all appreciated here intact. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Stephen Zinal.
He's taller than I am. I'm Steve Zinal. I live just down the street, about 1,000 feet. My driveway is right after the Torch Lake sign. I'm originally from Indiana. I had a cottage and I grew up on Lake Wawasee in Indiana. I was there since I was a little kid. My parents had a place. My parents had a place. My brother has a place. My both sisters have a place. It was really great. And then things changed. The water started to discolor. It was so crowded with activity that if I told you and gave you examples, you wouldn't believe me anyway. The DNR got rid of the fish hatchery and put in boat ramps with storage. I guess the fish are on their own now, but it just turned out terrible. And my wife and I one day thought, well, after one of my sons was almost hit when I was pulling him skiing, we thought, well, let's go up to Michigan and see how things are up there. And so basically we took our boat, we went to Portage, we went to Crystal, we went to Glen, we went to Charlevoix, and we came to Torch and we put it in at the day park, and there was a lot here for sale. And the water was clean, it wasn't busy, we weren't getting run over. And I said, it was 3 acres, 120 feet. I said, we're not going to lose any money by getting this. So we immediately bought it, and we stayed on Wawasee, but then we would bring the boat up on long weekends with the kids, and we just loved it there. We built a house. The only trees we took down were the trees that was the fingerprint for the house. We put the house 100 feet back. So if you didn't see the dock, you probably would go by and not see that my house is there. In the back, we did the same thing. We kept the footprint real small. We were very careful about the water, where it ran and stuff like that, because this community is really nice. It's pristine. It's beautiful. It's not real crowded. It's a joy. But believe me, where I was at Indiana, it started that way too, and it changed. And it changed over my lifetime. I am a pilot. I do have a pilot's license. I'm a single engine IFR. I don't have any trouble going into Torchport. I've never had any trouble going in there. I'm careful about when I fly. I've flown IFR up here, but I've never had I've never had a place where I got caught and I couldn't get in because of clouds or anything else. If I did, I would have gone into Charlevoix or Bel Air or Traverse City. And when I take off, I usually take off on 27, which is out over the lake. So if the engine's out, I can land in the lake over there. I try to be very careful. I don't hang around. I take off, I go somewhere, I come back and I land. And I try not to land on 9 or 27. I use the other more or less north-south airway. But I find it the airport very nice. I was very good friends with Dwayne and Mary Ann. Dwayne can build anything. He taught me how to tie up a plane and stuff like that. He's helped me out. He can build or repair anything. I did sign some papers that I'm sorry I signed. Basically, they came to us, the owners there at the airport with the condo association, and they just said, this guy is not going to buy this unless we make the changes and we take the runways and put him in with the condo association. And she says it's a small technicality. doesn't really mean anything, but I have 2/3 vote, and I'm going to vote for it anyway. So I was glad that somebody was coming, and they are getting elderly. Dwayne worked like a dog at that airport day in and day out, so I was happy for him. Well, I signed it. Then with Tim Bass, I talked at a meeting, and he says, well, I'm not paying for anything. You guys that own the condo association are going to pay for everything. And that includes all expenses and stuff like that. Now, that changed a little bit for I don't know how long, but I didn't think that was fair. So I vote not to change this residential to commercial. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
How about Mike Corso?
I'm Mike Corso, and I live on Barnes Road. And I share a lot of the same concerns that many of you do. But I also think that the purpose of a master plan is to serve as a guide. Otherwise, a plan commission or a zoning board of adjustments wouldn't exist. And you do your best to take into consideration what's best for the community as a whole. And I think what we're talking about here is that with this land is that you have to consider what is the highest and best use of this property. R1 doesn't seem to be it. But because you can't put conditions on a rezone, it's either what you've got down in your plan or it's not going to happen. But if you do a variance, which this doesn't qualify for, you could put conditions of approval on it. What I guess I'm going to suggest here is that maybe you consider a new designation of commercial with the types of restrictions that would make more people happy about having this change. That would also give the property owner the chance to use his property to get the best use that he can without interfering with the enjoyment of all the property owners in the township. So I guess I think that's something that I don't know if it's possible for you to do. I'm not as familiar with how you do things here. But I think that that's one of the things that you ought to consider is, there's R1, R2, whatever. You've got C1. I don't know if there's any other commercial designations that would fit this, or if you could put something in there that has these limitations that would allow this to continue on, that would make it profitable for him and not be offensive to anyone else. So I think that might be a good solution. Thank you.
Thank you for your thoughts. Barbara?
Laura Willard?
I stand in agreement. Can you hear me okay? I stand in agreement with my letter. I continue to oppose this commercial.
Ma'am, can you speak up just a little bit, please?
Is it on? Okay. I stand in agreement with my earlier letter. I continue to oppose, given everything I've heard tonight. And I'd like to share one additional thought. I've lived in a lot of different places. Notification requirements in the other communities I've lived in have been much greater for just general commercial than this township's requirements. I think it was 300 feet notification, and I think a lot of people didn't hear about this. And I think due to the air nature, paramotorists can go for 9 hours and 200 miles, and planes affect everyone. And I do believe that for notification purposes regarding an airport or an air park in the future, we might want to widen our notification range. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Jerry Kleinfelder?
My wife and I, Donna, live over here on San Marino Trail. We've been here about 22 years or 23 years. And when we bought we didn't know much about the airport. And we were alarmed by it, and we considered it deeply in our decision to buy, but it looked like a nice little airport with a green grass runway, and we decided that we could live with that. And we have lived with it, and it really hasn't been a problem. But I agree with a lot of what was said, and I won't repeat any of that. But we really don't think this is a good idea to go ahead with, to approve these requests for zoning changes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Doug Harrington?
Good evening. I'm Doug Harrington. My wife and I and our family have been coming up here for about 20 years. 7 years ago, we purchased a home at 429 Northwest Torch Lake Drive, and I became a full-time resident in the last year. I don't know Mr. Bays anything more than what I've read about his plans for this. I don't have anything to question his motives or his behavior like anyone else. I'm just looking at this on face value. The immediate thought that comes to mind is that if this were a viable commercial enterprise to operate this as an airport, we wouldn't see all of the additional things that he's planning as part of this to make it viable. I don't believe that it's an inconvenience for people to use any one of the 3 airports that are within a half-hour drive from here. And I just, I don't really see that there's a need for it, and I have grave concerns about all of the other commercial activities that would have to be implemented to make this a viable financial investment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Deanne Swanson?
Good evening. My name is Dan Swanson. I'm here with my wife Leslie this evening, and we live 1.2 miles from the airport over on Bay Harbor Club Way. I'm here tonight having looked at the application and all the materials, and there's no question Mr. Bay is a very successful, experienced, knowledgeable business person. I urge everyone to look at his Facebook page, and he's also the owner and operator of a mortgage company, Top Flight Financial. Look at that Facebook page. And I congratulate him for his success. There's nothing wrong with that. Being a knowledgeable, experienced business person, he submitted, as part of his application, documents in connection with the company he owns and operates that owns the airport. And that company, which is known as Torchport Airpark, states in his documents has a business purpose. Again, this is an airport. And the business purpose of his company is the acquisition, development, operation, and ultimate disposition of one or more automobile parking lot operations open to the public and activities supportive thereof. That's in the operating agreement. He also attaches a certificate regarding limited liability company, which he repeats there. What does a parking operation have to do with the airport? What does it have to do with commercial development? That's what this may be all about. Commercial development and not the airport. As a sophisticated, successful business person, he understands when you form corporations or limited liability companies and submit these documents to this body, they're going to read them. They're going to ask questions. And I hope this body does ask him questions about what does operating an automobile parking operation have to do with an airport, and what does it have to do with commercial development, campgrounds, gas stations and other things. Only other point I would add is we all Memorial Day weekend listened to those flying chainsaws above us. And if you look at his Facebook page for this airport, he celebrates that. There are photos of these folks flying all around us. Now, those of us who get up early in the morning and would like to have dinner on our deck, listening to those flying chainsaws invaded our rights, didn't respect us, weren't consistent with what we hope and want in our community. And if you're celebrating this sort of thing, boy, what more can we expect in the future? This is all about credibility. And somebody who sets up corporations to own an airport and says they're for parking operations, what's the real agenda here, folks? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Please don't applaud.
Thomas Joseph?
Good evening. My name is Thomas Joseph. I live here in the township next to Steve. I've been here for 25 years, since 1996. I've learned to love this community. I've been part of it, been part of this township. I was on a planning commission several years. And I think that what we all come here for, what we all enjoy, is something that is very important that we retain. I prepared a letter, and I'm sorry it was late because I got the late notification, so it was not able to be read. And I'm not going to read it. I'll submit you a copy. Because mainly what I've said in the letter is, number one, the request is not in compliance with the master plan. I think we've heard that plenty tonight. There are many of provisions within the master plan which you would violate if you take it at face value. Face value says commercial property, do basically anything. Notwithstanding what Tim has explained verbally tonight, which if that were the case, then I think we'd be talking about a special use district development, SUD, special use development. Years ago, we had an issue with another commercial location, Augustine Golf Course, here in the township, because they wanted to hold events that were somewhat interfering with people's rights of peace and quiet. Sounds very familiar. But the township was able to work out a plan, a very descriptive plan, very limited plan on how to satisfy both the needs of the residents and the need of the business. And I think that's the direction we have to take this. Hopefully, everyone has heard enough tonight that what we don't want is carte blanche commercial development. Notwithstanding the good people and good intentions that may be here, if it's on the record and it changes to commercial, whenever they pass on the business to someone else, then the lid's off and Torch Lake Township's no longer what it is. That's what we're here to say. Please deny the request, find an alternative method where everyone's needs and wishes can be satisfied correctly and appropriately. And do it with caution. It's not personal, but you have to be very specific, very detailed, and very limited. That's my recommendation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Tom. Your letter will be in the file.
Thank
Lee, Marion, sorry, I probably slaughtered that.
I have a letter I'll submit to also. Hi, I'm Lee Marmion of 1759 San Marino Trail. So our property is directly
Excuse me,
across-
could you stand a little closer to, by the way, you can pick that mic right out of there. Hopefully. Okay.
So our property is directly across Bay Colony Road from the Torchport Airport. We did not receive a formal notification of the hearing, and I would concur with the other person's comments that a broader area of notification should be made for important things. My wife and I have been part-time residents of Torch Lake Township since 1999. Our experience has been quiet morning walks and peaceful sunsets. This was broken on Memorial Day weekend when a, quote, carnival arrived at Torchport Airport with campers, fireworks, and paramotors breaking the peace of the neighborhood. The noisy, slow-moving, low-flying aircraft were encroaching over our homes and beaches early in the morning and in the evenings when the winds were calm and when we were expecting quiet. That is not the atmosphere we expect in an R1 zone community. As a zone community, we expect consistency in land use. Our small township is dominated by lakefront homes and agriculture with 2 small commercial retail areas, but no industrial zones. The parcels being proposed for zoning change have been R1 for over 20 years. Much of the township would be adversely affected in a variety of ways by the zoning change from R1 to commercial, including reduced quality of life, reduced property value, and potentially reduced public safety. Our neighbor, Deb Graber, would be severely disadvantaged with proposed changes being an island surrounded by a commercial zone. We do not believe a zoning change should be allowed just because there is a new owner who has different ideas for the property. We expect a consistency in zoning and land use and adherence to the township master plan. The Torchport Air Park has been a quaint novelty, but has never been a meaningful part of the Torch Lake community. In fact, it was not even mentioned in the community description of the 2008 master plan, which emphasized quiet residential and agricultural use. Increasing airport activity does not increase the quality of life for township residents. It only detracts from it. The master plan designated the area as agricultural, recognizing that it's commercial airport use pre-existing the zoning ordinance and master plan. Larger, safer airports exist nearby. While we do not know the exact intent of the new owner for the air park, we do not believe that increased commercial activity is compatible with the master plan or good for nearby residences. Are the events of Memorial Day weekend the new reality we should expect from his activities? In summary, number 1, the zoning change from R1 to commercial should not occur since it would disadvantage existing adjacent resident who expected it to stay R1. That's Deb Graber. Number 2, as a zone community, we expect certain restrictions on individual property rights. The overall character of the township is lakefront residential and agricultural, not commercial. Denying a change from residential to commercial zoning would protect nearby residents. In the same way, we do not allow short-term rentals, and we have adopted certain fireworks restrictions. Number 3, the township master plan should be followed. It supports commercial development only in Eastport and Torch Lake Village and not outside those areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Andy Graves?
Hi, excuse me. Hi, my name is Andy Graves, and I'm here with my wife, Kristen. We are residents at 1377 Bayview Drive in Kuwait. Our residence is right basically on the western end of the east-west runway. And I grew up in this area. I was born in Petoskey, but grew up in this area, went to Central Lake High School, lived on the bay through much of my growing years, and then finally moved here as permanent residents again after living in Oregon for about 18 years to take a permanent residence here and spend the rest of our lives. It is the most important place on earth for us. When I hear all of these comments, and I'm not going to repeat all of the arguments or concerns that have been raised, but I can think of only one thing as I'm sitting here. If only I had a crystal ball. If I had a crystal ball, I could look into it, and maybe I'd see Mr. Bays, the homeowner, walking through his backyard with his granddaughter and doing the things that he says he would like to do. I want to believe that. I want to believe that he wants to preserve the area the way that he describes. I'm also, in thinking about it, I also could imagine a time when he described 15 airplanes. 15 airplanes maybe taking off. I don't know, but maybe the most I've ever seen at the air park was somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 or 12, something like that, at one of the
past fly-ins. I can remember the Coast Guard helicopter coming in. It was a neat event. Really liked it. I'm comfortable with something like that. But as I said at the meeting a few weeks back when we were here, part of the issue is that regardless of the intentions of Mr. Bays, and I want to believe the intentions of Mr. Bays, regardless of those intentions, the problem is when you rezone from residential to commercial, you've let the genie out of the bottle even further than it may already be. It is done. You can't, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to undo. And it strikes me as well that we are in a situation where we don't really know, as a township, how to truly manage and deal with this situation. We have a new owner of an air park that's been here a long time. We've got residential property associated with it. We've got commercial property associated with it. The bottom line is it appears to me like we don't really have a good way of dealing with this other than conflict. So it occurs to me that perhaps one thing to consider, and maybe piggyback on a couple of other suggestions that have been made, is that, first of all, I think more analysis needs to be done. Second of all, I encourage the denial of the application as it's posed, and consider that maybe the township take under a study or some kind of an assessment so that it can figure out how to bring in something that is the nature of the airport itself. Because it is here. It's likely not going anywhere. Because frankly, if I had my druthers, it would be a Christmas tree farm, okay? But it's not. Mr. Bays bought it. I respect his decision to buy it. He wants to make a go of it, whatever that looks like. I want to believe his intentions. I frankly struggle a little bit because of the activity over Memorial Day weekend, which I didn't particularly care for myself. But there's been paramotors flying around there for years. I have seen them. Not that many, but a few here and there, and you just kind of, oh, that's a paramotor. It's kind of interesting. My son sees it dead. That's kind of cool. Okay, it is what it is. But when there's a flock of them coming in all at once and they're just buzzing around and I hear all of the reports from the neighbors I'm hearing, that is concerning. So bottom line is I encourage you to reject this proposal as it's written. I encourage the township to consider a new form of study and analysis to figure out how to handle something like this air park, and perhaps a new type of zoning requirement. Well, I don't know what the heck it would be called. I'm not a zoning expert, but I think something in order could be helpful here. And that would enable something to be zoned that way, and that way then Mr. Bays could perhaps proceed on some of the plans he has under a method that would be acceptable to the community and still let it be an air park, perhaps with 15 planes. Personally, if I could look ahead into that future through that crystal ball, I'd probably be okay with that. But all these other things that are kind of speculation, because we really don't know his intentions, and I'm sorry, there's nothing personal against him or his family. It's just we have to fill our minds run away with this because we don't know any better. And we also have seen characteristics and behavior that is concerning to the residents in the community that happened over Memorial Day. So I thank you for your time, and I hope you take it under advisement.
Thank you very much.
Howard Willard,
Thank you.
Casey Wiggins,
Thank you very much.
Phil Albert,
Thank you. Phil Albert, Leech Lane. My wife and I built our place, or bought our place 26 years ago. I oppose this application and any future application to be commercial because it's just inconsistent with the area. And I just have one thought that hasn't been said, and that is over the next 50 years, that property will change hands 4 to 5 times. And every owner's gonna have a new vision, and it's just a matter of time before somebody comes up with something extremely distasteful to this area, and you'll never stop it. And it's a when, not an if that's gonna happen. And so I would just encourage you to look at it that way. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I did have a question, Bill. With your permission, can I just get a show of hands of who in the audience is against this?
No, you can't.
Okay. I was gonna slip it in on you.
You thought I was sleeping, if not.
Chris Albert,
Thank you.
Deb Graber,
Hi, my name's Deb Graber. I'm the lone failed
homeowner in Torchport Airport. I love my house. I love my community. I love this township. I want the water to be protected. I want a lot of things. But I really want the target off my back that keeps being placed on it. I want to thank the Planning Commission for all the work you put into writing ordinances, improving our ordinances, to writing a master plan, consistently keeping your master plan up to date, because that is what supports your ordinances. I'm opposed to this commercial development, obviously. There's no mention of any type of expansion for an airport, for a landing strip, for anything that's in our master plan. So if it hasn't been said enough, I hope every single one of you are very familiar with what is in the master plan, because there are many sections in it that do not support anything that's being proposed by Mr. Bays. The north end of the township, the one point hasn't been made tonight, the north end of the township is the only place there should be really any growth expansion, and that's north of Eastport. If Eastport wants to grow, if Torch Village wants to grow, but I don't think we need Baysville in the middle of Torch Lake Township, personally. There may be a lot of wetlands in there. There's a lot of wildlife in there. There's a lot of water filtering that goes on in that swamp area, and that's what's feeding into our larger lakes. Thank you very much, and I appreciate the turnout tonight. I can't believe we have such a great support system in this community, and I just thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bobby, is it Tito?
Thank you.
Judy King,
She left.
the last one, Herb Roth. There we go.
Yeah, I thought I was the last one because I turned mine in last. Thank you. I just made a couple notes I'd just like to touch on. And again, Memorial Day weekend, we live in Bay Harbor, just north of here. And there were several paragliders that actually flew along the beach. One of the guys, pretty athletic, actually touched down and ran along the beach and then took back off. It's pretty unsafe for people that are on the beach. Giving a C1 zoning permit is like giving a blank check. And in my opinion, it opens the Torchport up for many options and problems down the road. We've been here for years, had many a pancake breakfast, enjoyed watching the planes fly in and out, and have enjoyed the Torchport. The master plan is very specific and well-written and well thought out, and really hasn't, changed over the years. The Torchport itself has been the same over the years also. The period prior to 1998, there wasn't any commercial property on the Torchport. It was strictly the airport at that time. When it was rezoned with the residential area, there was a small area that was blocked off as commercial along 31, and that was new. So there really wasn't any commercial property before that. I previously was a pilot, I'm not anymore. I'm not sure what's been said about closing the Torchport if changes aren't made. I haven't heard anything about that. I'm not knowledgeable on that either. But to me, there's nothing at the Torchport that is not available or that Mr. Basie wants to have that isn't available already. It's never had a taxiway on the grass fields. Everybody back taxis on it anyway. The houses or the residential areas that are on the Torchport are zoned for a hangar along with the house, so private planes can have their own hangar at that point. So I don't really know why you need to have a super or commercial area for more hangars. There's accessibility for pilots flying in and out. And again, the zoning hasn't changed significantly, and prior, there wasn't, to my knowledge, any commercial zoning present. So again, I support the master plan of the community. I think it's a great plan. I read through it this morning. I think we need to stick to it, and I think everybody that has voiced their opinion agrees with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody that wishes to speak that hasn't had the opportunity?
Hi, I'm Grant Mayer.
Would you please fill out the form so we can put your name in the record, please? It's right behind you.
Do you want me to do that?
Yes, I do, please.
Slowly down.
Right, yep, we'll take time. What do you think about everybody now? Thank you.
I could have waited till after. Thank you.
Hi,
Can I have your attention, please?
thank you for letting me speak. I'm sorry.
If you get a little closer to the mic, so.
This is what it means to get home from work. Lived up here all my life. My parents, Jack and Joanne Mayer, bought on Torch Lake when I was born. And been here, been there, been his right hand in building all of this, been deer hunting through the swamps. Remember Bruce McLaughlin making the different little community down off Cresswell and Golden Beach. All the cherries in my lifetime have been great, but I moved to be close to my parents and help them out, and I've lost one, and Mom's not doing that well, but I knew what I got with the airport. I saw what it is. I'm wondering if Mr. Bays is blaming us for buying what it is. I heard talk about him saying that we brought this to him and forced his hand. I don't know who forced him to buy. If you buy something and you don't have a realtor to check it out, you got cracked foundations, you got anything like that, after it's bought without insurance and other things, it's yours. And you work hard to make it work or not. But that's all I got. I don't think we all brought this upon ourselves. So don't act like it.
Thank you very much. Who's next, Barbara?
I'm sorry. Mary Ann Jorgensen?
Well, you read my letter, so you know that I've been involved in the airport for over 30 years. But I do have to bring up the point that that property was zoned commercial, all commercial, when we purchased it. And we worked with the township and have approved drawings for everything that was done. Tim's not trying to do anything different. He just has the wrong application in right now. So he'll be back, I'm sure, with something that everybody can live with. But I don't appreciate what whoever said, I don't think it was commercial, because that's not true. I've heard a lot of stuff up here tonight that's not true.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Would anybody else like to address the commissioner? It's not appropriate, Tim, I'm sorry. Anybody else? Okay, that will close the public speaking part of the meeting. I'm going to go to number 3 on the agenda, under consideration of the agenda and public hearing. I would ask the commissioners now, if you have any questions for the applicant or any questions for the audience? Now is the time. Does anyone have a question? Cole? Did you do this or what?
No, I was just scratching a little and adjusting, sorry.
Just looking for activity.
Yeah.
Okay. No questions from the commissioners. At this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mr. Steve Langworthy, a consultant that Torch Lake Township has hired specifically for this application. Steve, if you would come forward, please.
Good evening. First of all, usually I don't need a microphone at all. I have a tremendously loud voice. I'll tone myself down here a bit. I think the first thing I like to say is I have, over my 40 years of experience, attended a lot of public hearings, and a lot of controversial public hearings, and the civility that I see tonight and the thoughtful and helpful comments that you've made, both in the letters and the speakers, are going to be a great help. There are some complicated procedures we have to go through. This is not a simple yes or no vote and then we go away. There are other things that have to be considered as part of this application, and we need to be careful because in the end, the one thing we want to do is give our township attorney a case that he can defend should he have to go to court. Hopefully, we won't have to get into that. But that's one of the considerations we put forward is let's make the most defensible decision we can make and document it with that. Included in that documentation are your comments and the letters. Those things are also part of the record, and part of the record that should happen again, go to court, would be included in that. And again, a lot of the comments had very helpful things in them. They weren't just spouting out, I'm opposed to this and go away. So thank you for that. I'm going to go over a little bit about the master plan to start with. While many speakers and letters talk about it being inconsistent with the master plan, part of the problem with that particular aspect is that the master plan makes absolutely no mention of the air park whatsoever. And by the way, if I slip into airport, I used to be a navigator in the airport, so I have airport on my mind. So, but there's absolutely no mention in the master plan about the airport itself. But there are mentions about a lot of things you've talked about, the character of the community, and also where the commercial development should be concentrated, which is in the north part of the township. So we have some things in there we can go on, hold on to. But ultimately, I think we're probably going to have to process some kind of amendment to the master plan to specifically describe the airport. That amendment probably will fall out of whatever happens to the zoning decision. So when the zoning decision is made, we'll put a master plan amendment in place to support that decision going forward. So the other part of it is, and a lot of people talk about this, is the existing zoning of R1 and some of the problems you have with not having an airport available in the R1 district. There's no mention of having, in fact, there's no mention in zoning orders whatsoever of an air park or an airport. The only mention is for commercial hangars. It doesn't mention anything about runways or anything like that. It only talks about commercial hangars in the commercial district. So one of the things we're going to look at is what the proposed zoning is. And a lot of you have spoken to this about the number of uses. In fact, we have 25 permitted uses and 17 special land uses that are available. I'm going to talk about special land use just for a second. A permitted use means that I could use that property without any other aspects. I may have to come in for site plan approval or something like that, but you can't prevent me from using the property for those permitted uses. A special land use means that it has to be an application to the planning commission, that there are specific standards that are in the zoning ordinance that have to be met before the planning commission can approve a special land use. So the difference is I'm allowed to use it versus I have to get approvals to use it in those two categories. Next aspect of it is brought up is the nonconformity aspect of this. Obviously, this has been an activity that's been around for a long time. Likely prior to any zoning ordinance being in place, probably at all, which makes this a non-conforming use. We just processed an amendment to the non-conforming use section that strengthens it a little bit and makes a more description of what happens to non-conforming uses, what can and cannot happen for those. Previous to this, the zoning ordinance was pretty bare, I should say, about what non-conforming use, how we deal with non-conforming uses. So we've talked with that, done something with that. So finally, one of the jobs that I had, and one request I had from the Planning Commission was to put together a series of options. What could we do? Not necessarily what should we do, but what could we do? So my job is to look for a range of options, not necessarily narrowing in on any particular one, although we will have a recommendation at some point. So, as I mentioned, at some point we'll need to put something in the master plan that talks about the air park and the airfield. There I go again. The aspect of putting 100 plus 134, I think, acres of it, something like that, 134 acres of commercial zoning is a big impact on the community. And as it has been mentioned before, we don't zone for people, we zone for land. So whoever owns the land has the opportunity to use it for whatever zoning is in place, regardless of what, and I don't mean any disrespect to you, regardless of what an initial property owner may want to do, because property owner plans do change. Who was that mentioned that? Somebody mentioned about property owners changing over time. And that's very much the case. So if you have this existing zoning in place, that only means that we don't necessarily care about what the plans are for this particular property. What we care about is what could be done. So we suspect we want to do a master plan amendment to take care of that and put something particular in there. Now for the rezoning aspect of it, someone mentioned, and rightfully so, that when we zone something, we can't zone it conditionally. It's either a yes vote or a no vote. And that's all we can deal with. We cannot attach conditions to it with what we call straight rezoning. So we have some options that dealing with the zoning. First of all, is to evaluate this rezoning using the master plan as it exists or as it may be amended in the future, but at least as it is now, at a minimum, we evaluate the rezoning. Many of you have mentioned the inconsistency part. That's a dual-edged sword. Not having a mention of the air park versus having something in there could be an issue. I could see a court having the opportunity to say, if you make no mention of it in your master plan, you must be okay with what's happening now and what may happen in the future. So having something more specifically written into the master plan and the zoning ordinance would be helpful. So the first option is for the Planning Commission to evaluate that rezoning as the master plan exists or as we may amend it. Another option would be to amend the zoning ordinance to include airport uses in a residential district, either as a permitted or special land use option. If we put it as either permitted or special land use, we would have the opportunity to put some specific requirements in the ordinance that would deal with individual aspects of the air park itself. So we would have the opportunity then, as some of you have mentioned, to put more specific requirements on the property itself. The next option, or third option, would be, and this is similar to what one of the gentlemen talked about, creating another commercial district. But another option similar to that is to create a specific airport zoning district. The Township Attorney mentioned the Planning or Zoning Enabling Act. Zoning Enabling Act has a section that deals specifically with airports. What we'd eventually probably want to do is get an airport layout plan and write something in the zoning ordinance in a new zone district, airport zone district, that would deal with however we ended up with the zoning characteristics. We'd have to talk a little bit about whether the Planning Commission would want to carry on with this as being a non-conforming use or writing something that would allow certain things to be done, but only under certain restrictions, but not have to deal with a nonconformity issue. The next option is Planning Commission can consider reducing the number of acres that are zoned into commercial. That's one of the options they have. They can't expand it. We can't make it bigger. God knows we don't want to do that. But we can put it in there that you can reduce the number of acres. So you may request 134, we prove 20. I'm just making numbers up, so don't hang me on those. That's another option that the Planning Commission can have. So the Planning Commission has decided for tonight, again, to listen to your comments, read the letters, go back and look at the letters, make some of the points in there, and then come back to a next meeting and
Flow chart.
I think you saw this, didn't you not?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a flow chart here of what has to happen. These are kind of the rules that are required to be followed by the Planning Commission because of the Zoning Enabling Act. And after we had the public hearing, and then the Planning Commission will have a discussion. So the next meeting of the Planning Commission will be a pretty thorough discussion and some analysis from us, from the zoning team here, if you will, as to what our recommendation might be. Right now, the township attorney and the township planner and I have kind of come to the conclusion that the Planning Commission probably could consider denying this application and then going on and doing these other things that I talked about, deciding what to do after that. That's in fairness to the applicant, so the applicant knows where he stands. But then we decide on, look at these other options, creating the airport district and so on and so forth, what might be done. This does have to go to the county planning commission. Once the planning commission makes a decision, it will go to the county planning commission for their recommendation. They don't have veto power, they only have review power. So they review it, give comments back to us at the township, and then we consider those, whatever they may be, make whatever changes or whatever happens to that, depending on the recommendation, whether we follow or not. We don't have to follow their recommendation. And then obviously it goes to back to the planning commission for a final vote. We would have at that final vote have prepared a finding of fact that would be submitted to the township board, and the town, well, we probably submit that to county too. I think we prepare a finding of fact, what we call finding of fact, which is kind of detailed, why are we doing this and the support for it. And then move that forward to, again, the county and then back to planning commission to ultimately township boards. The township board's decision, rezonings are reserved, final decisions are reserved to the township board, not the planning commission. So regardless of what the planning commission decides, it's up to the township board to decide whether they're going to follow the recommendation of the planning commission or do something else. Anything that I can add?
I think you pretty well covered it all, Steve. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Just no questions. I'd like to point out that Mr. Langworthy is going to be with us through this entire process. So we're going to be listening to two consultants and our township attorney as we move forward with this process of considering the applicant's zoning request. So rest assured, the next meetings that we have will be equally as important as this one. And just for the group in here, we had between 103 and 106 people here tonight. So we appreciate that a lot. We need your feedback to consider. And we'll be in with Steve quite a bit in discussions as we move forward. A decision will be made sometime in the future, but we don't know when. Okay, Steve, any other comments? Okay, thank you. With that, I have the public hearing for rezoning request PCA 2021-02 and PCA 2021-34 is now closed at, give me the time, Barbara.
It's 10:09.
10:09. We will take a break. We'll be back here at 10:20. Thank you all.
Shoo. Everybody has work to do. Oh, God, yes. I recommend that.
So would you tell Barbie I'm mad at her?
I figured you were, I mean, that was really.
Yes, we know.
Yeah, I know, and I know, it's interesting. You get caught up in those things sometimes, and you don't Yeah, I do.
Jim, that's great to have, okay? That will be in the file, so if anybody wants to see it at the end of the FOIA, and we're gonna keep this all permission. Go back to. Thank you for your time. Have a great year. This is my critical agent.
You lucky duck. You go with your
I'll take one, two. Oh. Sorry, I've had a long day.
Steve's tactics in this is possibly to deny, but then give the applicant more options in the future. That's his tactic.
Right. And the other thing I thought about was, what about if we do a moratorium against any rezoning until we get the entire ordinance rewritten, which is what we've already hired Declan to do?
Well, yes, and supposedly the deadline on that is March of next year.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, but we're gonna be seeing stuff later coming through, in addition to all this other stuff. Got nothing else to do. I'm sorry.
Are there more zoning changes on
One more time. Oh, yeah. Are you kidding me? We hired Sarah.
No, I mean, people who want to rezone property.
I don't know.
I didn't hear that.
Oh, no, that's what I was getting at.
No, I did not hear that.
Yeah, all of a sudden, it's like,
No.
that's a big question.
We have 4 more letters. Do you want to read them?
Yeah, sure. You have copies of the letters from the beauty.
Yeah, I want to make sure I give them to you. Yeah. It's Thomas Joseph. This is Marion. That must be his second page. And then this is Bay's. Whoever gets.
Yeah, you can give them to Jackie and like we will report about Thompson's of the days. Yeah. Annie is in Bay's stuff.
I'm keeping Bay's one if you've got that. Yeah.
Okay. Do you need to make copies of the letters for? Yeah, copies of.
me, the more my neighbors here, sometimes they, we got a bunch of new neighbors here. I got a turnout the other day.
Can I have your attention, please? I feel lonely.
We've got to finish something.
You can stick around. You can feel free to leave.
This is the important. God.
Yeah.
Could I have your attention, please? We're going to resume the meeting.
Yo.
Too
concerned about
Yeah, we're getting lonely now, aren't we? Okay, the meeting is now being resumed. The next thing on the agenda is public commentary, relating to the issues tonight. Does anybody have an opinion who would like to speak?
No one.
No one is speaking, okay?
Wait a minute, Judy. Anything's open.
Judy, take your time.
Yeah, I'm Judy Kalka, and Jerry cautioned me about saying anything at the wrong time. But I just wanted to say, I'm glad I could be here tonight, given my problems with my back, but I brought my comfortable chair, so I lasted through it okay. And I just hope in the future, like I say, I don't know if this is the appropriate place to say it, hope in the future that we'll have a good system where people who can't be at the meetings can see and hear what's going on at these meetings, because I tried to watch a couple on YouTube, and it wasn't very adequate.
They've been working on that, and I understand a lot of it.
Yeah, I'll address that, Judy. If you'll notice, all the mics work tonight. Okay, that's a first. Okay, and in a practice session, which I happened to watch on YouTube, it came across very well. I'm guessing, it's a guess, that tonight's YouTube broadcast will be very, very good. And Mr. Cook is looking at different options for cameras going into the future. If they're needed, I'm sure he's going to consider them. We've already talked about working on that little mic there a little bit. So we're going to get better at this. So the people that can't attend the meetings can watch it on YouTube, which I think is a great idea. Go ahead, Bob. So you're saying the planning commission is perfect? What do you mean, no?
You had an opportunity. Kudos to Mr. Strange.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, thank you, Judy, very much. Appreciate you coming out tonight. We're going to move on to number 9, minutes from the June 8th meeting and minutes from the June 3rd meeting. Any changes that are applicable?
I just want to comment on the June.
You're going to have to use your mic.
I'm sorry, you're right. Just want to comment on June 23rd meeting. I wanted to go back and see if something was said. I wasn't sure it was or wasn't, or something was missed by me being chair and not always picking up what's going on. And I went and asked for the recordings of the June 23rd meeting. None was available. And then also that the YouTuber wasn't able to hear it. So I just want to say, I appreciate when the recordings are, just so I can go back to them. I also recommend that all meetings be recorded, and then you can, once the minutes are approved, then they can be eliminated or recorded over. So I just want to say that, because there were some points that went on, even as chair, you're not always paying attention to all the details going, and I'd like to go back once in a while and check it out myself.
Okay, thank you, Terry. I want to get back to the item we're talking about. Do the commissioners have any changes to the minutes for both of these meetings? Okay, there are no changes, which is a first. Nice job, Veronica. Okay, okay. We're going to move on to number 10, ongoing reports. We do. Thank you.
I make a motion.
Okay, Barbara's going to make a motion.
June 8th and the June 23rd meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay. Discussion? We'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thanks, Barbara. Ongoing reports. Zoning administrators report.
The written report is included in your packet. You know, if anybody has any questions, we'll be happy to take those.
I do have a question.
Sure.
Are we experiencing a lot of people violating the short-term rental issue this season?
I don't think so. Jackie's been checking the websites, and then we did receive one complaint, but that was actually for somebody that's a non-conforming short-term rental that we can't do anything about. So we are looking for them if there's any.
So
that
we're
you know
checking
of, and
RBVO, all that
Yeah.
good stuff, okay.
Yep, looking for them. But yeah, if you hear of anything or see anybody that's renting them, let us know. It's very time consuming to keep, checking the website.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Keeping track of the ones and, people get creative on how they do their listings. So
Okay. Anything else, Sarah?
that's it.
Thank you. ZBA representative, your report, Cole?
Yes, we met last month. We did not have any hearings on the agenda, no variances or anything of the like. So we did our annual review of the rules of procedure, our guidelines, and the notice of appeal form. See if any of our experiences in the last year necessitated any changes or clarification to that. And we also went through chapter 20, the ordinance itself.
The zoning ordinance?
Yeah, which of course, if we make any changes to that, will come to this body. Most of the changes we made or suggested, and they haven't been even approved by our committee yet, were not real substantive. They were more clarifying things. We moved some stuff
Well, I'm going to
around.
ask you just to speak
We
into the
moved
mic.
some stuff around and a little organization based on Steve Langworthy's input and Sarah's. I guess that's about it. I did include a copy of our draft minutes from the meeting in the packet.
Okay,
for
thank
your
you.
Review.
Jason, do you have a report
Yeah.
from the board?
I had Jackie include the minutes in case anybody wanted to look into it in depth, but just a little recap. Jairus Rubin, Township County Commissioner, was at our meeting. He reported that there's a new product out there that they want Antrim County to test on some of our roads. And the way I understand it, it's injecting rubber into our cracks. I don't know what roads they want to use, but they want to try it. We had a special report was presented to the board by Casey Clement in regards to the Eden Shores water supply issue, which is not good. There's a new day park committee. Motion was approved for zoning ordinance review by Beckett and Rader. Motion was passed to establish a fire lane on our Traverse Bay Road with the nature preserve. Motion was passed to increase Windward's scanning rate, and we have a new firefighter named James Hunter.
A new firefighter?
Yep.
Outstanding.
Yeah,
Thank
he
you.
was state police in Arizona and moved here, and he's actually the guy that's running Barnes Park and our Antrim County parks.
Oh, wow.
So really nice guy.
Great. Okay. Next item on the agenda is correspondence. Sarah, do we have any correspondence?
Nothing additional, no.
We covered a lot of correspondence tonight.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is new business. Do we have any new business that you'd like to discuss? Okay. Under unfinished business, item A, zoning ordinance review, comments from Antrim County on section 2.19.
Included in your packet was an Antrim County letter and minutes from their meeting of June 29th, where they reviewed this amendment that the Planning Commission had put together related to recreation vehicles as temporary dwellings and the storage of them. So they provided two comments, which you see in here, that they think separate the use from storage of recreational vehicles, and then once separated, include conditions of each situation individually. So they were reading, somehow they were reading this section to apply in a certain way, and I don't feel that it's a valid concern, honestly. To me, that it's clear what's happening here, that you can use these on residentially zoned properties. They have to be owned and registered to the owner of the property, and then their concern was that, do you need a zoning permit if you want to store a recreational vehicle on your property? I think it's pretty clear to me that number 2 talks about staying there, and that requires the permit, not the whole.
And I'll make a comment on that. I was at that meeting. For whatever reason, the Antrim County PC took a flyer on us. Both Sarah and I are looking at each other, we're not sure what they're talking about, because it didn't apply to what we were doing. So I'm still wondering where that came from, but
I appreciate their comments and they taking the time to review it. I just, I don't see there being an issue. If the Planning Commission, in reading this, sees that a zoning permit's required to store it on your property, we should make changes, but if nobody else has that concern, then we should just move forward with a recommendation to the Township Board.
okay. Section 4, any comments?
The county reviewed it as well. They suggested removing or moving some sections around. They had some concerns about it. I, again, do not think those are anything to be concerned with as drafted. That section works out just fine.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
No.
Okay, great. We're going to go on to number 14.
Don't you want to take some action on the motion so that we could send it on to the board at this point? Yeah, because
We do need a formal recommendation. You made a recommendation.
We did already.
to Approve them, so, or consensus to just forward it on to the board.
Yeah.
If you're happy with that.
Okay. You want to make a motion for that?
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Consensus to forward it on to the board. We need some action.
May I have a second, please? Okay, Jason seconded. Repeat the motion, Jerry.
Consensus to send the information on to the board. Proposed to send it on to the board by consensus.
From Antrim County.
Yeah. No, what we had before, not the Antrim County changes, is it?
No.
No, it's what we did before.
Okay.
I'm looking.
You're right, I'm wrong.
Okay.
Talking about section 2.19 in chapter 4, the zoning ordinance, we made some changes to those, something to Antrim County, back to us. Now we want to send it to the township.
I understand that, but the wording of the motion.
Would be the consensus, have a consensus to forward what we previously done and send it on to the board. Not making any changes. What do you mean? Oh, yeah, the section 2.19 and chapter 4, what we previously voted on, to send it on to the board. Does that help? Chapter 4, section 2.19, there's 2 parts to it. Okay, thank you for asking, clarifying.
Okay, and since you clarified your motion, may I have a second again, please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks.
Okay, discussion? No discussion? We'll take it to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thanks, Jerry. Okay, number 14, concerns of the commission. A is the chair. I have a concern I want to remind all the commissioners. It's really difficult not to get in conversations regarding proposed zoning changes that we're going to be reviewing with people in our township. I implore you, don't do that, because you're boxing yourself into a corner. There's an ex parte issue. I had one the other day that a gentleman approached me. I said, I can listen to you all day long. I can't comment on anything. and I won't comment anything. So I would really urge you to think about it when you have conversations, because it could come back and bite you big time. So that's my concern. Thank you. Concern of the members?
I was going to second what Bill was saying here. Sembering Homeowners Association called me and wanted to talk about the process, what they should do tonight. I did not tell them what they should do, but I went through the entire process of planning commission, that we don't, all the steps we go through, which was okay. And anytime they were asking me to, okay, what do you think about this or that, in sense of pro and con, I backed away from it. But went through the entire process, including, they didn't realize, then it goes to the board. The board can change it, they can overrule us, they can modify whatever it is. But the planning commission is the first step in the process, and it's just not a one-night decision, it's ongoing. You can talk about that.
Well, I would recommend something else.
Go ahead.
I would recommend when you're approached by somebody, you give Sarah's phone number. I'm serious, I'm not being funny.
Please.
Okay.
That way it gets it off your back. It goes on Sarah, she's the expert, we are not.
See, I didn't think of that.
Okay, I think that's a good way to diffuse a situation, because there's a lot of passionate people out there tonight.
I did not, I will say, did not do that, but I also
Okay.
stay away entirely. I just explained the process, maybe.
I understand.
Use of that. I did not get into any pros and cons. Every time they asked, I said, I'm not saying anything in that.
Concerns,
Even to my wife, I don't talk about it.
she won't listen to you anyway.
Yes.
Concerns of the consultants, plural. Any concerns, Steve, Sarah?
I would just echo Bill's comments. Please encourage people to call the office or send an email to the zoning admin email address. And if you get any communications from anybody, please make sure to send them on to us. I do have concerns that people are going to be sending emails not to the zoning admin, even though that's what the notice and publication says where to send it to. And we did witness that for the meeting tonight. We received some of them, but a majority of them went to the planning commission as a whole. So if it doesn't come through the office, it's not a part of the record. So if you're talking to people or people have concerns about it, please encourage them to send them to the zoning admin at torchlaketownship.org email address.
I do it one step further. I think you ought to take your email addresses off the webpage. So people don't-
Interesting, Steve, why do you say that?
Because that, just what she was saying, makes a direct contact between somebody in the township and you.
Okay.
That's not what we should do. We should be funneling them through the township staff.
I can say, verify, somebody sent me something, and send it on, to others. And
Give
I
me
asked,
a
"How did
second,
you
I'm
get-"
taking notes.
Okay, how did you get it? And they said, off the website. I didn't even know the individual.
I would echo Steve's
point.
comments. It just, from an administrative standpoint, it makes it difficult to make sure that we have everything and to kind of control that. We would take it in and pass it along to you, but it just helps so that there's more one way in out to you. And then you're not worrying about checking your emails every 10 minutes to see if you've got something. We can say, we sent this mass email of information to you and you can know to check it. It takes a little bit of the burden off of you and, checking your emails on the weekends.
Yeah, I want to expound on, go ahead, I'm sorry, Steve.
The other aspect of that is, we're talking about litigation, should some litigation come up and the client, you have your personal, that email, they have the right to go to discovery to look into your computer and see what communications have taken
Yeah.
place between, regarding that particular application. That's part of it.
We will strongly consider your suggestion. Just for the table. Veronica, Jackie, Sarah, Virginia, me, scrambling today to try to get all of these letters put together so we don't miss anybody. I mean, if you don't know it, there were 44 letters. So, and they were going everywhere. So I really like your idea. They should come into here.
Well, actually, as we're coming up here, that's one thing Sarah mentioned to me, that she thought I was just gonna not put her in a bad position. I was gonna take on the bad position.
That's okay. That's okay. We don't like her anyway. I'm just teasing.
That was her idea.
Okay. Okay, Sarah, good idea.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Now, all of that having been said, I did receive a bunch of emails today. I didn't check the distribution list on them, so I don't know if they were sent to everybody or if one just may have come to me. Well, now after we're done with this meeting and we're done having this statement we just had, can I delete that stuff out of my?
No.
No.
That's the other harm of you getting something directly. If you erase that, that becomes, not tampering with public records, but it's a destruction of the public record. And with that, since your email address is in there, that becomes a public record. Once it becomes a public record, it's discoverable and put you in a bad position.
But having said that, what I would ask you to do tomorrow, when you catch your breath, okay, take a look at that and see if any of those emails were only directed at you. And if they were, I would suggest you pass them on to Sarah, so we have a record of it, okay?
When you're talking about not deleting stuff, you realize we have township email accounts, right? I guess I was always under the assumption, when I go through and read these emails, and, I rarely, I get notifications, but I don't communicate much to it at all because I just assume keep that to here during the meetings, but I delete them. And it never occurred to me that maybe some of these letters, somebody picked it up and sent it to me and nobody else got it. And this one was particularly unique because usually when I come here and there isn't as many letters, I've seen them all and read them. Tonight, there was quite a large number of them that I never, unless I got them after 6 o'clock tonight, that were never emailed to me. I mean, like 3/4 of them.
Sarah, you bring up an excellent point. You really do. So we're gonna strongly consider that suggestion, because if there's really no reason I can think of that I need to receive a direct email from anybody that doesn't go through Sarah. And if she feels it's prudent for me to read it, I'm sure Sarah will reach out to me. So we're going to strongly consider that idea.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, didn't Alan send out an email to a lot of people? And at the end of it, he encouraged people to contact us and included our.
I'm not aware of that, but.
At the end of the email. So he sent it out. And so it very well be that some of us could have got these things and didn't realize we were.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that issue?
Yeah, when we delete the emails.
We're going to get you to talk.
Excuse me, yeah. When we get to delete emails, they go into the Torch Township, goes to trash and get deleted. Bob, isn't the ability of the township to go back and capture all deleted emails? They're kept on. Okay,
That's what I was
so
told.
we did not delete it off our system because we use the Torch Lake Township. We didn't delete something, and they're able to capture the data if requested.
I will tell you this, it's very
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
here to the rule. If we do receive an email, and let's just call
Can you use the mic, please? We're
Yeah.
still on YouTube, guys.
Let's call that
Okay,
an ex
that's fine.
parte communication if they send one to us. Should we reply to them at all and ask them to direct their comment to the
No.
zoning administrator?
No.
Just don't reply, just
It
inform.
makes your
the-
life a lot easier.
Inform the zoning administrator that we've received.
You could just send it on to the zoning administrator. The zoning administrator will handle it.
Okay.
Well, ultimately, after, if your email address is taken off, that will ultimately kind of fade away.
Any other comments on this subject? Okay, we're going to move on to number 15 on the agenda, public commentary. Does anybody have any more public commentary? Nope? Great. Boy, you've been waiting for this a long time, haven't you? I'd like to call for a motion for adjournment.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, can we discuss that? Can we vote?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Closed meeting at, what time is it?
10:45.
10:45. Thank you, everybody.